Okay. Say something.
Hey, there. I see you guys.
Haha. You should be able to hear us too. All right.
Well, yeah.
He can hear us.
Woo woo.
Here.
I know you can.
Okay. I hear
know.
you on the speaker also. I'm going to mute you again.
Good call.
Because there's a delay.
I was going to say, it's terrible with the delay.
Yeah.
All right.
The delay. What's with this delay?
Who's running this fucking podcast?
Oh, man. The first stream I had, I totally screwed up the audio. I don't know if we want to... Not a great story that we need to keep it in the episode, so I'll talk about it now. But
Sure.
First episode, I wanted to make sure the audio was working, and so I had another computer that I was using to kind of look at the audio, but it was somehow that audio was connected to the stream too.
Yeah.
So I had created a loop.
The loop. No. Not
Yeah,
the loop.
it was bad. And then somebody finally told me on stream, and I'm like, "What? How is that possible?" And then I unplugged the audio from the other computer, but it was so embarrassing. And then on top of it, the audio got so loud. So some people watching that first episode in the recording were pissed off because the audio was so loud.
Yeah, they can be mad. Let them be mad.
Well, I went back and I made a version with fixed audio, but I didn't want to. They only released the ability to edit videos recently, so the video had been posted for such a long time. I didn't want to.
Right, you don't want to modify it.
Yeah, because I don't monetize my videos, but it has like 38,000 views right now.
Right, you don't want to start over.
Yeah,
I get it. All right, John says he can see and hear most of us. I'm assuming we sound okay. And what you're saying is that you see Jay and I. Oh, hey, Sarah. Our friend Sarah's in the chat. Sarah's local. So Sarah is awesome. And Valdor, fix your camera. The guy in the middle is missing. We need like a cardboard cutout of his like avatar, and we'll just put it right there. That'd be great.
We should do that next time
for
everybody that calls in.
I'll get like a crash dummy and put it back there and just tape a face to it. Don't you think that's interesting, Mike? And I'll just nod his head.
Well, yes, it is.
As a matter of fact, you'd actually, I guess.
You got to do the South Park thing where just the jaw moves.
Yeah, exactly. The Canadian South Park.
I was going to say we got to do it like the Canadians, so it's just
right.
That's
the whole top of the head moves.
All right. Oh, we're going
to
Yeah, I'm not your buddy, guy. All right. We ready? I'm going to hit record.
I'm always ready.
And then we're going to start. You're always ready. Yeah. All right. All right. Ready? Here we go. Hey, what are you doing over there?
Looking up the dude.
You want to do the intro or not?
No, I'm looking up a YouTube dude. I'm going to watch some videos.
Welcome back to the Lost Joystick Network, episode 29.
I did make sure you hit record.
Very professional podcast, everybody.
Shooting for the stars, my friend.
Nothing like playing on your phone while you're live streaming and recording a podcast.
I don't ever pay attention to anything you guys do.
I know. Can we watch videos with Jay instead? Yeah, we'll set up some sort of simulcast or whatever it is that the kids do nowadays.
There you go.
Anyway, we are joined. I should probably start with my name is Mike. I am your host. Joined as always by my co-host Jay. Say hello, Jay.
Who's screwing this up now?
Say hello.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. And we have a special guest.
We do.
He'll be heard but not seen.
Yep.
Mr. Clearvus himself, Michael Chiaramonte.
Hey, you got it right, I think. Hopefully. He'll tell us if we got it wrong.
Well, let's
You got it.
Ding.
Good job.
We did it. So, yeah, a good friend of the show and avid Discord poster, YouTube extraordinaire, Mr. Chiaramonte. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. All right. So that's the end of the show. You can find us at, where is it? No.
We have a link tree.
Anyway.
Say the link tree.
Yeah, say it. Say it. Do it. Do the thing. Do it, monkey. Jump through the hoop.
Do it. Come on. Do it.
So we always start with how was your week in the intro and all that stuff. Let's start with you, our guest, Mike. how was your week?
It's been crazy. We've been running around a lot of parent stuff. Just with running around with the kids, trying to keep the 3-year-old from losing his mind while we deal with the stuff that the 10-year-old has to do. All while not being in our house right now. So it's been a little bit much, but good. Good, all good things. How are you?
I'm good. It says, John says there's a bit of a stadium echo going on. That could just be that I'm too loud or not loud enough. Yours is way up.
Oh, it is.
Hold on. Let me see. How's this? Is this any better, John? I'm going to wait for John to be this is the stuff we clip out, by the way.
I guess the hard part is, as he said with Mike. Mike who?
Oh, maybe it's Mike Chiaramonte, or Chiaramonte. Ooh, got to.
Maybe we should do Mike
sure.
C and Mike P.
Yeah.
And I'll be Mike D. Oh, that was terrible.
That's pretty bad.
Sorry, Mike C.
So there's a stadium
Mike
echo
C.
going on with you. All right, we'll figure that out. Let's see here.
Oh, really? Oh, it could just be where I'm sitting, and I was kind of loud. So.
All right. Well, let's see if that's any better.
That's fine. John's the only one's complaining. I don't care.
John, is it any better? Say something. Anybody.
Something. Anybody.
Is this the least interesting thing going on the internet right now?
And we're down to 3 viewers.
And nobody's here. No, and the show's off. But we've been canceled somehow. I don't even understand how that works. How did we get canceled? We're in charge of all this. All right, we're just
Christy, don't you hate pants?
Exactly. He's so ready to torch his pants. He just wants him to tell him, torch your pants. Don't you hate pants? So good. Yeah, I'm a huge Simpsons nerd. I'm sure you've picked up on that. But
oh yes.
All right. Well, we're just gonna have to grin and bear it. So where were we?
He was telling us how wonderful his week was.
Yeah.
His 10-year-old.
Yep.
His 3-year-old.
Got 3-year-old to the 10-year-old. So is that it? Just the 2 kids?
Yeah, just the 2, but that's enough. And,
that's plenty.
It gets better when they get older and you can make them do stuff.
Yeah.
Like make you a sandwich.
The 10-year-old is pretty good about helping out most of the time, but she was a little bit getting tired of watch your brother for 5 minutes and that gets old after a bunch of times. And yeah, that's been mostly it. I've been trying to squeeze in some gaming in the meantime. We can talk about, if you want, the new cores that have been released for the Analog Pocket.
Yeah.
With the Open FPGA. I'm messing around with those.
Programmer stuff, man. This is what happens when you put a programmer on the show.
Good thing I subscribed to a new YouTube I can watch.
Yeah. Do you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself?
It's his YouTube.
Before we roll into that, tell us a little bit about where are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
Yeah. So, I'm in New York, currently sitting in my driveway, and I'm professionally I'm a programmer, but I started a YouTube channel probably about 4 years ago now, on NES Homebrew. So started learning how to do NES Homebrew after listening to the NES Assembly Line podcast. If you haven't listened to it, they're unfortunately they haven't been putting out episodes recently, but they're a great podcast to go listen to if you're interested in the topic. So I started putting out episodes of live streams of me learning how to program for the NES, and then I also put out some content related to kind of condensing all those literally hundreds of hours of me programming into smaller videos to try and help people, and it seems to work. I got a lot of messages even now, even though I haven't been streaming and recording lately because of just life being too busy. Just people telling me that they watch my stuff and that it's helpful, which is awesome.
I will reiterate that. I don't come from a programmer mindset. My programming, I'm a network guy, I'm a hardware guy. I understand software, but not the programming of it. So when I start looking at code, I can look at back in the day, I could look at batch files or scripts or, whatever bash files, or even HTML code. But coding a program to me is it just, I can't even wrap my head around. It's just not the way my brain works. So it's funny because I kind of found your site before I realized that you were the person on the Discord. And then I put it all together at one point. It was kind of weird. So, but it's super useful. And I think people should definitely check it out. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, definitely check out Mike's YouTube channel. So, okay, so with that, now that we know a little bit about you, it's time for questions. What's your favorite Pokemon?
I'm a little bit too old for Pokemon.
So am I.
Mostly because Pokemon sucks.
Yeah.
I like the guests we get on this show.
You and Robbie are going to get along great.
That's why I'm in charge of the guests. That's why I'm in charge of the guests.
I think Pokemon are cute. Like, there are definitely some ones that I think are adorable, and my daughter is super into it. But I really like beyond the basic ones like Pikachu, Poliwhirl, Psyduck, a few I could name. I don't really know much about Pokemon.
Then we'll leave it at that.
Dude, you knew like 4 more than I did. So
yeah, but he's smart. That's the difference. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about your week then. Like, we'll start with you, Jay. Then you can go, and then I'll go last because I'm always the long-winded. This.
I'm going first.
No,
Mike.
Mike will go first.
Mike C.
Mike C.
Then Mike D. Then Mike P.
Sure.
Well, so, just to round out what I was saying, I've been looking forward to being on here. I'm watching your podcast ever since you told us about it on the Collector's Quest.
Yeah.
And you and I were chatting back and forth, and we made it happen. We're here.
Yep, we finally did it. Worlds are colliding, Mike.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to?
Just trying
like video game wise, I should say. Let's say how was your week in the video game world? Let's identify. Yeah, let's clarify.
We're not doing the collecting segment yet, are we?
No, we'll get to that next.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I should have looked at the show notes.
We should have sent them more than 10 minutes before the show.
If only. Go ahead.
I've been trying out. So, like I said, I've been playing some of the stuff on the Analog Pocket. They released the Open FPGA cores. Some people have been porting some of the cores that they have on Mister. And if you don't know what Mister is, it's another FPGA platform, kind of like what Analog puts out for their stuff, but not a commercial product per se. And basically what it is some people have been porting the code that's in the Open FPGA format, or for the Open FPGA format from the Mister stuff, so that they can you can play Neo Geo, some Neo Geo games on the Analog Pocket. So I've been messing around with that. And then also what's the other thing that they just released too? Game Gear's Master System Mark, the SG-1000. So just been playing around with that kind of stuff, and really just having a ball, kind of seeing that work and being like, how the hell did anybody make this happen? This is so crazy.
It sounds like there's like a war brewing here, is what it seems like. Like there might be some conflict between the analog people and the Mister people, and the commercial versus the GPU or GPL, or like whatever.
Yeah, some people want it to be. I think generally the people who are actually developing the cores don't actually care. I think they're pretty happy to just make their stuff available anywhere. But there are people who are all about, like, Mister is the platform that you should be supporting, and Analog, they're dirty capitalists, and
they're trying to make money.
You shouldn't port the cores because you're supporting them, and you're not going to make money. But at the end of the day, Jurassic is making a ton of money from all these people who are buying the DE10 Nano for Mister. Like, so how is that any different than Analog?
It's not. People just want to complain. So
it's ridiculous.
Well, beyond that, what else you got going on? You been playing anything, or just messing with the Analog Pocket?
I was playing Tunic on the Xbox, which is a cool, like, Zelda-like indie game that's really freaking hard.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that, and I think I've just given up on Elden Ring.
Yeah. I haven't even opened mine.
Oh God, I put 20 hours into it, and I made some progress, and it's just like
not fun.
I feel like I'm just punching a wall. Yeah. And everybody's like, look, the blood that you're finding, from on your knuckles That's just like because you're getting good, and then eventually you'll make it through that wall, and it'll be even better. And I'm just not there. I don't have the time to be screwing around with that.
I bought when Matteo was in town. We went on like a cavalcade of game stores. I think we went to like 10 of them. And one of the game stores we went to was one up in Saginaw, up in Bay City actually, and that's where our buddy Mark works. And it was the day that Elden Ring was released. So I bought it because I'm like, oh, I'll buy it. I've got an Xbox. I'll play it. I haven't even opened it. It's sitting there. So it's like, I just can't. Yeah, but Retro Bobby's in the chat. He says, I've been holding off on Elden Ring too. I'm like, I just can't. Like, I'm like, I'll either get so far into it, like the Animal Crossing or Breath of the Wild stuff, or I'll just be like, I don't have time for this. And I don't know if I have time for it. That's the problem.
And you
really have to have the time for it.
Yeah.
And you got wrapped into that, what was it, for the PlayStation, Last of Us.
Oh, well, yeah, Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2.
That one for a minute.
Oh, those games are great. I loved those games. Yeah, I really did. So, all right. Well, then, Jay, before I move on, I should say, Mike, anything else before I move on to our other Mike D here? Is self-anointed? No. The self-anointed?
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I could keep talking. Feel free to just say, "Hey, Mike, shut up," because I do tend to go on. Well,
then I'll be talking to both of you, I guess. We're all Mikes today. You really wanted to confuse everything by adding initials to everybody, didn't you, Jay?
Yes, I'm not going to be. Yeah. I'm going back to Jay.
So, Jay, what have you been up to? So, yeah, went right back to it. I didn't even wait. No hesitation.
Nope.
Didn't call you Mike D. It's Jay. Jay, what have you been up to?
And that's why I didn't respond, because it's nothing.
Oh, I see.
I haven't done anything.
I need the cricket sound on this.
You really do, because I do nothing.
I know.
I sit back, and every 2 weeks when we sit down and do this show, I'm like, God, I don't do anything. I work, and I go home and hang out with my kids.
And if I'm not in town, it's not like you're coming over and we're hanging out.
Yeah, I couldn't even play video. Well, I guess I could. I can just go over to your house.
You could. Yeah, it was nobody there.
Actually, it'd probably been nice. It was quiet over there.
Could have took all the stuff you were going to sell, pick it up, ship it. I got shipping supplies.
Yeah, I probably could have done that. I didn't even think about that.
Put it all together. All right. Well, if you're nothing.
Yeah, I'm abridging mine so you can have more time for yours.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet.
Since you're the whole first page here of the show.
I am not. That's not true. Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that. All right. So,
Mike, if you want to take a nap, knock yourself out, because we'll be here for a while.
Oh, come on now.
Buckle your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. What arcade cabs do we get this week?
Anyway, it says to Mabel, it says... No, my last 2 weeks, ever since we recorded the last show, I have barely been down at my office studio at all, because as soon as I left, I came down here on that Monday to edit or whatever it was.
Yeah,
I did the edit, and then for work, my job, I had to work on an RFP response. If you've ever had to do one of those, they're nightmares. So it was this big long RFP response. So that took up like my work week in life for 2 days. Then Thursday I had to go get Connor. Okay.
Hold on. You did miss one thing. I don't want to plug them all the time, but I'm going to plug them. You also co-hosted Matty Ice and Marky Mark on Monday night.
That's right. I probably should start over. So yeah. So on Monday, I came down here, edited the podcast, posted it. Then that night I was on Matt and Mark's podcast, the Matty Ice and Marky Mark podcast. Mark was in Seattle, so I lent the studio to Matt for the show, and then it subsequently was also on it with Kyle from Retro, and so did that. And then, like I said, I had to do the RFP response, all that crap, and then Thursday I had to go get Connor, and then Friday I came back, and I was prepping because we were doing this Comic-Con. There was a Comic-Con here in Flint, the really cool Comic-Con, which I don't love the name, but whatever. So Friday was set up. So I had to get all this stuff done. The bid was due by Friday for the RFP. By the time, once it was done and submitted, then I left from here. You and I went over to Retro. I had my trunk full of stuff. We went over to Retro. You did do something.
I did. That's what I was going to say. I did do something.
So Jay and I met over at Kyle's because Kyle and I shared space at the Comic-Con as vendors, right? So went there, set everything up. Good old Kyle's, 27? He and his buddy didn't show up until after the show started on Saturday. The show started at 8 a.m. and they were there at like 8:15. I'm like, where have you been? Luckily, we set everything up for you.
We didn't let that go at all.
No, we did not let it go. But anyway, I was there all weekend, and then we left there on Sunday. I went home, did laundry, and then Monday morning we got in the car and went out to the east side of the state for 4 days. So I was there until about 8 hours ago, and got here. had to finish writing show notes. I was trying to play the game while I was for the topic of the show and get notes written and all that stuff in the past couple days. It's just, so it's just been a constant barrage. I'm ready. I take Connor back to his mother tomorrow, and then after that, I feel like my life will start to settle down a little bit.
How nice would it be if you had I don't know, maybe you should see about getting a co-host, so then they can help you with notes and getting.
Yeah, I'd really like somebody to pick up some of the slack around here. It'd be cool. If you guys know anybody, there's an opening. So, but anyway, but no. So the Comic-Con was great. It was really a Comic-Con more so than a video game show. So when I did CCAG, that's all video and arcade game stuff. This was really a Comic-Con. They had a number of guests. So they had Butterbean. They had Jimmy the Mouth of the South Heart.
Everybody said was really nice.
Brutus Beefcake. Yeah, they said he was great. Jimmy, Brett Valentine, the guy who played the
Greg
Black
the
Ranger.
Valentine.
Whatever. Yeah.
Come on, man, get with it.
Whatever. It's not my scene. But the guy who played the Black Ranger, and Power Rangers.
You're looking at me like I would know that one,
dude.
80s wrestlers, yes.
I'll tell you
Rangers,
what.
no. You got me nothing.
The guy that
I know the dude that plays the White Ranger is some Jason dude. That's all I know.
The guy that played the Black Ranger had the longest line of any celebrity there and was charging more than twice what everybody else was for an autograph.
Wow.
$100. And his line was unrelentingly long.
Guess I should have figured out who he was.
Maybe I should have looked into it, but who gives a crap?
Yeah, well.
Anyway, but the show was good. It was mostly comics and toys and stuff like that. I had a good show, sold a bunch of stuff. Kyle had an even better show, which was good because he had more stuff than me. But Kyle wound up selling twice as much as me and was super ecstatic. And we all had a great weekend. But like I said, then I went straight from that to this vacation and then came back. And on the vacation, I got to play Undertale. So Matteo has been pounding on me to play Undertale, and I started it. So if anybody's... Have you played it?
No, I have not. That's why I asked how it was.
Well, I was going to ask Mr. Chiaramonte if he's played it. Have you played Undertale?
I have it. I have not played it. I've heard good things.
It's a very... I have only just started. I've played about an hour and a half of it, and there's different paths you can go down. So there's like a pacifist path, there's a genocide path, there's a whatever anti-path, whatever it is. It's a very emotional game to immediately. It's like an Earthbound / Final Fantasy 3 type RPG, but it's very much it's very minimalistic from a aesthetics perspective and even a gameplay perspective. It's really mostly about a story and decision making in this emotional roller coaster of things that you have to make these moral decisions almost. I don't know how else to define it. So. Spoilers. I'm not telling you anything about it. I'm keeping it very vague here. So the guy who made it, or Valdor says, the guy who made it got his start as an Earthbound ROM hack. I believe that. I could see that. So, but I'm not giving away anything about the game. I'm just telling you about the game.
You're giving us the synopsis.
Yeah, without giving you any of the specific details. So anyway, definitely worth playing. I want to try and play through it. It's a pretty short game, but yeah. So I played that, and then I've been playing a little bit of Animal Crossing again, so I got back into that.
Here we go.
Well, Connor wants to play it. So my son wants to play it. We don't play a lot of games together, so he wanted to play it. I've got back on there, and I'm talking to Scoot and Sylvia and Savannah, and Tom Nook's kids are idiots. I love that meme where it's like Tom Nook when he finds out that you paid off your house by selling his kids bugs and weeds. And he's like, what the fuck? It's just the best because it's so true. So... But anyway,
am I allowed to comment on the notes on our notes here?
Are you allowed to comment on our notes? No,
because you said you were
not at all
back on Animal Crossing.
I said I'm back on my Animal Crossing bullshit.
That's the note you put on here. Back on my Animal Crossing bullshit.
Kinda. So, but I enjoy it. I had to go pick all the weeds. I hadn't been there in 3 months. I actually take that back. I went on my birthday because if you ever want to feel good about yourself and you're ever alone and you feel like nobody cares about you, get on Animal Crossing on your birthday, and man. It really is this cool thing. It's really neat. And then
I thought you were gonna be like, man, then you really do feel alone.
Yeah, you feel like a total nerd and loser. No, it makes you, it does. It feels so inclusive. And my son sent me a postcard in the game as a note. And on my birthday, I opened it and KK Slider's there singing a song and the thing comes up on the screen. It's an emotional thing, man. It's pretty cool. So anyway, that's pretty much what my past couple of weeks have been like. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the Comic-Con.
Yeah, I didn't. Man, it was like 48-hour blur. And you were there with me the whole time.
I know.
Jay and I just sat there and watched Trailer Park Boys while I sold Super Famicom games.
That first day was kind of miserable because it was hot.
Oh, yeah.
It was really hot.
They didn't turn on the air conditioning at the arena until it was too late for some reason. There was a mishap there. But the next
second
day was better.
Nice.
Nice
and relaxing.
All right, so I guess we're ready to get into our collecting segment.
Yeah.
The honors go to you, Mr. Chiaramonte. Let's talk about what you've picked up recently.
So, I mean, I feel like Tyler, I picked up a lot of bullshit lately.
Boy, you nailed that one.
And I mean that in the best possible way, because it's not like it's even stuff that I didn't want or didn't need, but it was all just kind of, I bought a lot of inserts and posters, because I was kind of like, well, I have these copies of games that are pretty nice, but they don't have the stuff that they're supposed to have, so I probably should just make them have all that stuff. So I went kind of searching for really specific posters and things like that, and that's always kind of a gamble, because you get some people that are like, oh yeah, this poster, it's $40, even though everybody and their mother is selling that poster, and it's just nobody wants to come down to a reasonable price.
Yeah.
I actually had a pretty good deal. So somebody put one up for auction, and I was the only person that bid on it, so it ended up being something like $4, which was awesome.
That's where you get your value nowadays. The buy it nows and all that stuff, people setting prices. You don't get deals unless it's some anomaly thing. Nowadays you have to watch auctions and bid, and that's where you get deals. It's the opposite of the way it used to be.
Yeah,
it's weird.
So I'm looking at my eBay history now, because I don't even remember. So that stupid Mega Man 2 sticker, some posters. I decided, it was dumb for selling my cart version of Crystalis, so I bought it complete in box.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to Johnny and Tyler too much, so I bought Castlevania and Super Mario Brothers hang tab complete in box versions, because I don't know why. Because it was like I had Super Mario Brothers, and it kind of started to get in my mind, like, how you get like this little something that kind of gets in deep when you hear like the copy you have is not good enough, and you're just like, shit.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I stopped. The only time I worry about that is when I'm like, and not worry is a strong word. I how do I put this without being like crass? If someone has made a mistake and they've got like let's say somebody has like a gloss sticker seal Mario up for sale, and it's like woefully underpriced, having that knowledge and exploiting it, I would do. But I'm not going to go out and chase like a circle seal Mario hang tab, first, second, third sticker print, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know about all that stuff and what it is. It's important to understand and acclimate yourself to what you collect, right? You want to be knowledgeable. Right. But like, in my opinion, it's like, I never feel like I'm missing out, because I've got a crappy 6.0. It was like literally the last hang tab print, like the TM hang tab print of Mario. I found it at a store for $200. I bought it. I sent it in to get graded. It came back at a 6.0, and it sits on my shelf. And then I have another copy that is probably in slightly worse condition. That's like the promo oval seal that sits on my shelf. At one point, I found a very, very nice oval seal promo copy of it, and got it graded and sold it for a ridiculous amount of money, because I didn't care. I just don't. It's cool. Like, I'd like to have a hang tab Metroid. But it's like, I also go, I don't really care. It wasn't the one I had. I'm sure when I bought it, I didn't buy it when it first came out. I didn't even have an NES when it first came out. So the likelihood of me having a 5-screw hang tab Metroid, it doesn't resonate with me. But I understand it. I know that feeling where you're like, okay, like I'm missing out. I need to get this thing because if I don't, I'll never get it too. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm, to be clear, I'm not going for like, the earliest copies because I just can't stomach paying
so
that
much
amount of money.
Yep. It's gotten out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, but here we are talking about Dracula X when we're talking about paying lots of money.
Speaking out of hand.
Yeah. So, I mean, a retro game enthusiast, I can't tell you the number of listings. I'm sure you've seen. It's like, oh, these were my son's games, and I don't know anything about them, so I'm just selling them. And half of them are like reproductions, and you're just like, wow, this is what a shit show.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff. The two cool things that I actually felt really happy about getting because they're just kind of, I don't know, they were just kind of neat. Were I bought one of those Super Famicom memory cassettes, the Nintendo Power memory cassettes.
Yeah, it's SC, right? Isn't it the SC cart?
Yeah, exactly. It's the one where in Japan you could bring it to a kiosk and you could buy the game, and they'd write it to a flash cartridge essentially.
Yep, they were always trying to do that in Japan, man. With the disc system, with this. They, that whole Blockbuster thing they tried to do here, the Greenleaf and all that. Mm-hmm. So no, it never worked anywhere.
Yeah, no, and I think it's super cool. I would have loved to have seen that for Super Nintendo. I didn't have a Genesis growing up, so I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing until a few years ago.
That was the blue card, right?
There's a blue and a green.
Okay.
Yeah, but go ahead.
No, that's fine. And then ironically, the reason that popped up was because I have a saved search for Super Mario World because for a long time I had been looking for that complete in box, and so it's got Super Mario World and Super Mario All Stars, which is fine. Those are cool games. I like those games.
But even that it has something on it and it works is almost like that's cool enough to me.
Yeah, yeah, and then the only other thing worth mentioning really is I got in Japan, they had done a really cool 5 game collection for Rockman.
Yeah.
I guess a couple of years ago, and I was gonna get it, and I'm like, when it was released, I was gonna get it from Amazon Japan, and then I was like, do I really need this? And then inevitably the answer was yes, because the Legacy Collection 2 on there for the Switch, that's the only way to get those games on a Switch cartridge, because in the US they released it. The Collection 1 and 2, it's the first collection is on the cart, and the second collection is a download code for both the Legacy Collection and X1, X2.
Yeah. It was a cool box, by the way. Saw the picture.
Yeah,
it looked cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a really cool box. So I had been kind of playing around getting that on eBay, and everybody on there, like we were talking about before the show, prices in Japan are getting a little bit high because they're seeing us and they're going, wow, these Americans are dumb. They're willing to pay crazy amounts of money for these games that we don't want here.
Well, I think also part of that is the fact that so many people kept so much of that stuff, and there was so much more of it too. So like something that's deemed almost valueless over there, like there's so many boxed like I can't imagine the ratio of the number of boxed copies of Final Fantasy VI for the Super Famicom versus Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo. You sold 1 million more, and you kept, surely they kept way more. You know what I mean? So it's junk sometimes over there. In this case, it's not. I'm just saying, but that's I think a lot of the times is that now they're going, okay, these people want these things, and then over there it's junk. But the smart people over there are going, maybe it's junk to us, but it's not junk to everybody.
Right. So I just randomly happened to find a seller who was selling it for about $100 less than everybody else.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, surely there's something wrong with it, but they had a good rating, so I took a chance, and actually it's in good condition. Everything was there. Everything seems to work, so I was pretty happy about that.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, anything else before I move on to Jay?
No, I mean, other than my bankruptcy proceedings, I think we're good.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. We'll discuss that in another episode. That'll be the financial advice podcast.
Right.
That's a
do as we say, not as we do part of the collective.
That's a Patreon exclusive. Ironically, you must pay to hear that advice.
Oh, there's a good reason for that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, very good, Jay. How? What do you got over there? Did you do anything? You buy any records or?
Let me see what I got here.
Bubble gum or list. Baseball cards.
So I actually brought a couple things to show. Oh wait.
Oh yeah.
These are yours.
Yeah, all this stuff here is my stuff that I bought because I'm the stupid one.
I know you're gonna be shocked.
What?
I got nothing.
Man, you really. So let me get this right.
I'm the lamest dude alive.
You have done nothing for 2 weeks.
Yep.
You have bought nothing.
Nope.
You helped nothing with the notes. You did. You did help. Oh, well. I'm just trying to paint a picture here. It's not fair.
Did I do nothing?
It's just the media. The media's out here like fake news in you.
Oh well.
Anyway. So nothing.
Nope.
It's not the best color man in the league for nothing, folks.
Nope.
Jay, do we have to start buying you Super Nintendo games? Is that what it's going to take?
Again? Say yes.
Yeah, sure. No. No, I haven't. I honestly,
Jay's too good for us.
No, I've been pretty much a homebody. And the only times I did go out really was just so I went out Friday night to help you set up. And then we were at the show all day Saturday and most of the day Sunday.
It was funny. We were at the Comic-Con for 2 days. We only walked around a couple times and neither of us bought anything.
No.
Comic-Con's great because I don't really have any interest in any of that stuff. And it's not
past comics. That's the problem. There's some stuff I saw at the Comic-Con where I was like, ooh, I should buy that. Because it reminded me of my childhood. Yeah. Like, remember, Rob had all those Infinity Gauntlets.
Yep. Our friend Rob, yep.
And I was talking to him about that. But it was like, I don't need this.
And then didn't Brandon go buy that stuff? Our friend Brandon bought it.
He went and bought something from...
Well, I don't remember.
It was a Spider-Man.
Yeah. All right, just irrelevant.
Yeah, it was just... I don't know. It's just... I just haven't got anything in a while.
Valdor says that you've got it figured out. Let the other people buy the collection for you. And then John says, Jay's stable so he doesn't have to hide from the world through collecting games.
I don't know, John. I feel called out.
Yeah, that's man, ouch.
I have no comment on this.
Can you pull this knife out of my back?
Yeah, I have no comment on that. Actually, I think, but that's kind of a... like, I think that was kind of... He just kind of threw that knife up in the air for everybody to grab on.
Yeah, it's a multi-edged knife for sure.
Because he isn't ousted from that.
I think he fully understands that he's included in that whole.
I'd still say I'm far from stable, but
no, I know you're not.
I did beat Mortal Kombat 3 a couple times at your house.
You sure did. We just didn't tag Madio. We got to do that.
No,
I beat 2,
we got lazy.
3. We got lazy.
We need to time them just right so we can beat 2 and 3 at the same time
and take a picture together.
Yes,
man, that's asking a lot. Timing that out like that, that's got to be tough.
Can you build a pause button for that?
Can I build a pause button? Mike, can you help us here?
Yeah, Mike's got the actual arcade cabs. We need to figure out how to build a pause button.
We need a pause button so we can hold one up. Okay, let's moving on.
I want to play you, Jay.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
If you're gonna pick something, that was from Robbie. Mike, you can see that, but
I
want to. I'll play if you don't pick some trash character.
All right.
I'm just gonna be Cabal and run back and forth. Woo!
Speaking of getting called out, my Sindel can spank y'all now. Okay,
yeah, Sindel's
cool.
about as cheap as Cabal.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you're ready to play a real game, we can do some Street Fighter.
Valdor, get the FX Pack Pro.
Get the FX Pack Pro and finish your entire collection in one go. Problem solved. See, he's really the best advice that anybody gets.
Man with solutions.
So yeah.
I'd like to see a man with solutions. So, but no, I really didn't have anything else. What about you? I bet you got a laundry list. Maybe 2 or 3 things.
Why do you say that? Is it just because of all the stuff on the table and the list on the sheet here?
All right, everybody, buckle up.
It's not that long.
See, he's learning.
This is easy. This is easy stuff. Okay. Got a bunch of Super Famicom games, kept 1. Puzzle Bobble. Had to keep that. Okay. Had to. You told me to.
You got more than that.
That's all I kept.
But
I'm not collecting them. They're for sale.
That's all you kept over the weekend.
What do you mean? That's all I kept.
Did you sell Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
It was on the table. Nobody bought it.
Yeah.
It's still in the for sale bin. If anybody wants Mutant Warriors for Super Famicom, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's for sale.
What about Rockman?
They're all for sale. They're in the bin. They're not out of the bin and on my shelf. I
distinctly heard you a number of times say, they don't sell this weekend, I'm keeping them.
I haven't even had a chance to think about that in 5 days. I say a lot of things that I don't remember.
All right,
alone.
So you got
Bobble.
Puzzle Bobble's your only one.
Yes, exactly. It's my only one. Let's see here. All right. Not that anybody's watching, but I also grabbed a Famicom copy of Godzilla King of Monsters, complete in box. So scored that a couple weeks ago. Finally showed up. Kyle's pissed off. He wants it.
Got to brush off a Famicom so we can play it.
It's too bad for him. Well, good news. One of the other things I got was a Famicom Twin, the Sharp Famicom Twin, with a working disk drive. Mine has decided just not to work. So, and I've tried to calibrate it, and I've gone through the steps and put a new belt and all that stuff. And I think there's a problem with the read head because it's super erratic. Like I've done everything with the motor speed and all the crap. So I bought another one. It works fine. I'm probably just going to swap them because the shell on mine is much better than the one. Because of course I got mine from John. I went and bought my own, and it looked like trash, but it worked. Not that the one John sold me didn't work. We knew that the drive did not have a belt. So I don't want to, misguide anybody that John's selling junk. He doesn't. He sells great stuff. He'll be at the Kansas City.
I didn't
Retro
think about the Twin. I was thinking about just the stack of just Famicoms you got in the back room.
Oh, I did sell one of those at the show.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then I've got one for Robbie. Valdor got his.
you
got had. Yeah, John says I got had. Valdor, we should also say, Valdor finally got his package.
Did he?
He got his Tetris. He got his Super Famicom games. And he got a Famicom from me. And it all showed up. And stickers and a pencil, I think. I can't even remember what I put in that box.
Yeah, you put a pencil in there. I remember it.
So, but that got done. And then, let's see. I went to Canada while I was on my little trip off to the east coast of the state. Yeah. Tuesday, I spent the day in Canada when I drove across the bridge there at Sarnia.
Was the bridge busy?
On the way into Canada, it was not. On the way home, it was an hour wait. Oh. Yeah. So it didn't take me long on the way in. It took me just a few minutes. There was a pencil, he said. All right, excellent. So while I was over there, I had a good reason to go over there. I have a good friend who lives in London, Ontario.
Yes.
And he is 29, kind of getting into, he's been buying and selling games, so he's kind of formalizing it finally. He has a site, I believe it's called Whip It Games on Facebook, and his name is Holden. And I met him through like punk rock shows and stuff like that years ago and whatever. So we always talk through Facebook and chat and all that stuff. And he's like, well, he's been holding a few things for me. And finally, I was like, well, I'm going to be on the east coast of the state. Why don't I'm literally 20 minutes from the border. Why don't I just jump in the car and drive over? So spent the day there on Tuesday. I bought some stuff from him, and I bought some stuff from a couple of the shops we went to. I also went to Swish LA.
You were like, suck it, family. I'm going to Canada.
That's right. That's right. You guys go do whatever you do on vacation. This is what I do on my vacation. Go to video game stores and go to another country.
And hadn't you gotten some stuff from Holden before?
Holden was the person who sold me my last game for my licensed set Sands Stadium events. He sold me Gun Neck and shipped it over.
There you go.
So, yep, Gun Neck and the manual. So, but let me get started on the crap I bought from him. So,
let me check them off while you go.
Sure. I can't see your list, so it doesn't really matter if you check them off or not. I got some loose NES games. Got a Bad Dudes. I was running low. So, scored a Bad Dudes from him. This is stuff that Holden had in his like inventory.
So, what do you got? Like 70 Bad Dudes carts, and then you got the stand-up arcade?
Here's the problem. There's one that goes in the backdrop, okay? And I don't know how that happened. 1 second.
I think
I hit it. I see. All right. There was, let me start over here. There's one that goes in the backdrop of the Instagram, okay? There's one that goes in my collection. And then there's one here because the one that was in my collection fell behind the thing here. So behind our set of all these VHS tapes and logos and shit, which I don't want to move, there's a copy of Bad Dudes back there. Some say there's always been a copy of Bad Dudes back there. So, but he had a time
capsule for Bad Dudes.
Kinda. So
it's like a Robbie Coleman time capsule.
Kinda. So yeah, in case I was running low,
right?
I grabbed that from him, took it home, or I have it here. I'm going to take it home and put it back in the collection because the one that was there is behind the wall here. One of the other things I grabbed were the Canadian variants of Super Mario Brothers. So to the untrained eye, they look exactly the same, and that is because mostly they are.
Well.
Other than at the very bottom, it says NES-SM-CAN, not US or USA.
I thought maybe he would throw little hockey sticks instead of fireballs.
Yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it? Like some back bacon or maybe like an Elsinore beer.
Ooh.
But yeah, so the same with Super Mario 1 and 2. They just say, -CAN for Canada. Now, the Super Mario 3 was interesting because there's two versions. There's the regular, anybody who's looking at the live stream, the regular classic Mario 3 front label there. Yeah. And then if you look at the end label, it's a little bit different. That's how I noticed it at first. It has a little, I'm assuming that's like French MC or whatever that is under the TM. It's like trademark, but in French, right? Because all these carts are bilingual. Like if you look at the back of the Super Mario Brothers, the back is a little bit different. It's bilingual, right? It has no one can see that. Too. But so the late release,
I guess that's some French.
Good call. There's a dash one Super Mario Bros. 3 for Canada. Much like the left bros, right bros controversy of the US, this is the red stripe, the red line across the top, Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Mario Bros. 3, which I had not seen until I was in Canada. And my Canadian friend says, oh, I just thought that was a late release version that everybody got. And I'm like, I've never seen a copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 that has the red line across the top. So that's I had to grab that. Yeah, I had to grab that.
Neat. Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah. Hey. Yep. And then one step away from my Tengen loose, set, I found a copy of RBI Baseball 3. So now I'm down to Afterburner. I just need Tengen Afterburner.
Which I know a guy we talk to later that probably has Afterburner.
Well, we're going to find out. That's the only one I need.
He might cut you a deal for that in Bubble Bath Babes.
Now I'm going to get to the actual fun stuff. Okay? Not that fun. This one's not that fun. Jerry Glanville's Pigskin Foot Brawl. Okay? A terrible Sega Genesis game, which I purchased at a shop in Canada, which is great to shop in Canada, by the way. When you go shopping, everything's like 25 to 30% off. Because I'm buying in US dollars and it's all Canadian. So I'm like, oh, it's $60? No, it isn't. It's always less. But it was actually in really nice shape. It had the manual, and it's one of the black, grid games that I didn't have. So I grabbed that. And let's get to the really kind of cool stuff I bought. So I bought this. It's a Nintendo Micro Versus system. And it's like a little 2-player, almost like a Game & Watch style game. It's a single screen. And this one is Donkey Kong Hockey. There's Punch-Out. I think there's a race car one. Maybe
conveniently it's hockey.
Yeah. What are the odds that it was hockey, right? I actually thought that was kind of funny myself. But I just heard that noise. Sorry, it's just disorienting. But yeah, it's actually very cool. It's complete in box. It even has like the little insert and manual and everything. And it's in really nice shape. So I grabbed that from a shop, and I thought it was pretty cool. I'm going to give that a run. It's just a little 2-player Mario, or cool. Donkey Kong hockey 2-player game. All right, second coolest thing I got. Sealed copy of Castlevania Chronicles for PS1.
What a segue.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, my buddy Holden got this from a collection. It's not in great shape, but it's not in terrible shape.
No.
It's nice. It came from an electronics boutique Canada. You can tell by the price tag on the front for $34.99, which would be like, $27 US or something like that. But yeah, I picked this up from him. It's been sitting in his bin, and I told him I would grab it if I ever came across the border, so I did. I'll probably send this in, get graded, and just put it on the shelf, because why would I open it at this point? That would be stupid.
Is the electronics boutique label on the outer back package? It's on the actual seal?
It's on the
nice.
It's on the what's the word? Wrap, cellophane, whatever you want to call it. This is in a little cellophane baggie, but it's not on that. It's on
okay. I glanced at it earlier. Didn't remember. I didn't.
That would be ridiculous if this been in a bag that long, wouldn't it? Anyway, moving on.
We're talking about Canada.
The second coolest thing.
Canada.
The second coolest thing that I got. The coolest thing I got is this. It's an OG Zelda Game & Watch. Not the one that just came out like a year ago or whatever it was. The one you got for a Christmas present. The one I got for a Christmas present from my co-host and wonderful friend, Jay. This is an OG. And it still has like the peel on the front, like the plastic peel that's never been peeled off. This thing is in fantastic shape.
It is. It's in really good shape.
And it works.
And it works.
And it's really cool. It's definitely a shelf piece, but it's really, really nice. So I was super hyped because 14-year-old Mike really wanted one of these. And I hardly ever see them. And the fact that he had one and it was in such nice shape, I had to grab it.
So I got to be pretty careful with this, huh? Oh.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's very durable.
I dropped my phone.
It was meant for kids to play with. So you should just drop it and throw it around. I'm sure.
I can peel this. Go ahead.
Yeah, would you just peel that off there for me? That'd be really cool.
Kind of bad.
Thanks. It looks bad that way. Anyway. So, and then one thing I did not put on the list here that I remembered is I went and bought. Mike, are you an Arkanoid fan?
I've played it. I don't think I've played it enough to say I'm a fan or not, but I've enjoyed it the few times I've played.
So I'm not a huge fan, but I always wanted the big box for the Voss controller and the game and all that stuff. I always wanted that. And I've only ever seen it in the wild 2 times since I got back into collecting. One of them, it was already sold. I couldn't buy it from the lady. She's the lady I bought my Metroid CIB from. And the other one was a trashed copy that was at a disc replay that smelled like someone had used it for an ashtray for 30 years. Ooh. So I'm like patrolling around on eBay, and come to find out there's a bunch of new old stock boxes and manuals and trays floating out there. Like apparently Taito dumped all this stuff and this guy's been sitting on it or wherever. So they dug this stuff out or whatever. Someone discovered all this new old stock stuff. So I bought a new old stock box, tray, and manual. And now all I need is a controller. I do not have the Voss controller. So, but I did get that. I put it together, got a little box protector and folded it up, and it was kind of cool. It looks great. So I love it.
He might answer in the chat, or we can ask him later. But doesn't Robbie have one of those too? I wonder if he has the controller.
Yeah, he has the controller. He doesn't have a spare, but he has one. Huh? Yep, and he actually purchased his box and manual and tray just like me.
Oh, nice.
Yep. John actually had a nice one prior to that, I guess he was saying. But yeah, Robbie was the one I went to. Was like, what do you think of this? He's like, that's where I got mine.
Robbie does. Look at that. Robbie does.
Yep. So yeah,
Robbie, do you have the control too?
They both have all.
They
of
both
it.
have everything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, John has a nice CIB that he had prior to that discovery of the new old stock stuff. But yeah, if you're looking for a box and tray and manual, you can get on there and make an offer to the guy, and you'll get it if you want it. So nice. I wanted it and I got it. So that pretty much wraps up the collecting piece of the show.
So no new arcade cabinets?
Not as far as I know. I haven't been to the house that much. I looked in the garage, didn't see any, but I didn't look that close. Who knows? There might have been some in there. Who's to say? You know, there was a giant box of Super Famicom, the game, sitting on my front porch when I got home today.
Nice.
So that was something.
Yeah, there's a bunch in the garage from the show.
Yeah, there's a lot. They're like USB keyboards. You put 2 of them in a closet, and next thing you know, you got 100 of them somehow. So, anyway, Mr. Chiaramonte.
Yes.
As I have now dubbed you, why don't you tell the listeners what our show topic is, if you would be so kind?
Oh, well, don't you know? It's we're going to be talking about Dracula X, probably one of the more controversial Castlevania games
perhaps
released here.
Let's see. We'll find out about that in a little bit. Yeah, Castlevania Dracula X for the Super Nintendo. And we're going to talk specifically about the Super Nintendo reimagining, or whatever you want to call it, of Rondo, right? We'll get into all that. But yeah, that's the topic of the day. Now, real quick before I forget, I want to talk about our giveaway. I have not had any time to put together all of the entrants, but I would, and anybody who wants to continue to enter to this giveaway, I'm going to give you all the details on it now. So we are giving away a copy of Super Donkey Kong for the Super Famicom and Street Fighter 2 for the Super Famicom, complete in box. Mm-hmm. And we will give them away on the next episode, which will be the 24th, August 24th, which is a Wednesday. But all you have to do is follow us on Instagram at Lost Joystick and send us a DM with your favorite Sega Genesis game. Even if you don't have one, make one up. You can tell us a fake game. You can tell us that Mario is your favorite game, and we'll be like, you're entered. It's fine.
Or Altered Beast, like our last episode.
Nobody's going to do that.
I was gonna.
You're not eligible to win.
Oh.
Friends and family of co-hosts and hosts of the Lost Joystick Network are not eligible to win.
No.
Sorry.
Wait, you didn't tell me that before I got on the podcast. I wanted to enter and win.
Oh, I meant like...
Mike, go ahead and enter. We'll just tell him. We'll just say we're not friends.
You know what? That's not fair.
Now.
How about this? Co-hosts and
we'll
their
be friends
families.
after the show. After the
co-hosts and their families. That's how I should have worded it. I'm going to do that. Let's do another take on that one. Co-hosts and their families are not eligible to win. There.
Okay.
All right.
So me, you, Robbie, and John are out.
I mean, Robbie and John can enter. I don't care if they win. Although it would look kind of rigged if they won.
Just guy's named Jay, according to John.
Just guy's named Jay. I was told Altered Beast disqualifies you, says Valdor. That's fair. If you send me that, you might get left off the list. No, it's not. That's not true.
I could think of a game that you could put that would be a favorite.
Jerry Glanville's
Pigskin Foot Brawl.
The guy at the store goes, "Are you buying this because the guy has like cool studded bracelets and stuff? Like, look at the front. Look at the front."
I did.
And I'm like, Now, maybe kind of, but really no.
You're like, I have no earthly idea why I'm buying this.
Anyway, yeah, I really didn't. All right.
And I looked at the back of the box. I'm like, what does this have to do with football?
Nothing. Or the Sega Genesis, really. Or video games.
We'll need to play this.
All right. No, we don't. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the release of this game. Okay. This is a very interesting game. We're going to start with the release. This is a Super Nintendo game that came out in Japan as Akumaju Dracula XX.
Which you have a copy of.
No. I have Akumaju Dracula X.
Oh.
XX is this game.
Oh.
X is Super Castlevania.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
That is confusing.
This game came out July 21st, 1995 in Japan. And then in the States, in North America, September of 1995. That is when the PlayStation came out. September of 1995, exactly. And then in Europe, as Castlevania Dracula's Kiss.
February. Like Chef's Kiss?
No, Dracula's. Oh, we'll get into Dracula's profile in a minute. We got his dating profile on here, too.
All right.
February 22nd, 1996. And then in Australia, June 22nd of 1996. That is literally 5 months before the Nintendo 64 came out. I think it came out in November of 96. Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm pretty sure it was late 96, yeah.
Somewhere around there. So, I'm going to leave it to Jay, who's playing on his phone.
I was going to look at the release date.
You don't need to. They're right there. It doesn't matter.
For Japan and US, N64 was end of 96 or mid to end 96, and then 97 everywhere else.
Yeah, I know it was right around then. Yeah. That's when I started ignoring it, and I have ever since. 26 years later, still ignoring it.
Nice.
And I bought it and promptly regretted it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I was like, I had a PlayStation and was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This seems like a step backwards. And we'll get into that probably here in the gameplay and story. Oh, got him. Jay, speaking of the gameplay and story, why don't you tell us a little bit about Castlevania Dracula X for the Super Nintendo?
I can do that. So, of course, it's an action-adventure platformer. Everybody knows that. It's pretty much what all the Dracula games were at this point.
The Dracula games?
The Dracula games.
Like Kid Dracula?
I just wanted to say Dracula.
And
actually, Kid Dracula was.
Like all those good Dracula games they made on the PC?
Oh, I went quiet there. I couldn't hear myself. I think Castlevania 4 is...
Maybe it is just whatever. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Of course, this is like we were just talking. It's the reimagining, and I'm going to say this wrong. I always do. I like that you had to, thank you. Akumaju Dracula X or Chino Rondo for the PC engine.
It's not or. It's both.
Oh.
It's both. Akumaju Dracula X Chino Rondo, which translates to Rondo of Blood.
That's a lot of work.
For the PC engine.
Okay.
Go on.
Takes place nearly 300 years after the original Castlevania. So
like the first two, right?
1 and 2.
Yeah.
So there's 7 levels in the game. Each have a boss.
Like a stage boss.
Traditional, yeah. So and just to kind of list out the stages. So stage 1's called the Burning Town.
Appropriately.
Yes. When you're walking through, the whole background on the game is on those levels. Every part of that level is on fire.
I'm going to say this. Number one, Mike, feel free to chime in anytime you're not interrupting. Okay. I want to make sure you know that. Number two, I'm going to say we're skipping the names of the bosses because, man, those are some of the wackiest names for bosses I've ever seen.
And we already know I'm going to struggle bus with the actual real names.
Yeah. Minotorosu. Salamander is an easy one, but the rest of them are just like, these? Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
we got Dracula.
Minotorosu is definitely just Minotaur, right? So, Karabarosu, I don't know what that is. I wanted to chime in and say, how did anybody boot up that game and not be like, holy crap, I can't believe they're doing this on Super Nintendo? Because that first level, not only does it look amazing for the Super Nintendo, the music is so good. That first song is just, it slaps. It's awesome.
You mean the Bloodline Cerebus? That's the name of that song.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's Bloodline Cerebus.
Yeah, that song is awesome.
Cerberus.
It sounds
Cerberus.
so good.
Let me say that again. Bloodline Cerberus. Sorry. Yeah, it's funny. when we first played this game, Jay and I were playing it on my EverDrive because I don't have this cartridge in the basement, and I had it hooked up to. I have my Super Nintendo hooked up to like whatever it's called, the SCART SW, the SCART switch, the GW, whatever it is. But then the audio goes mono out to a receiver. And I realized that because the game was being played in stereo, but it just sounded way off. Remember when we were listening to the game, it sounded totally messed up. And then I went and played it on the Switch, and I was like, this doesn't sound anything like it sounded at home. It just sounded weird, and it was bouncing in and out. So I changed it to mono, and it sounded fine. It sounded pretty good. But I will say this also. While I agree with you that is a very good song, I don't love how it doesn't fit Castlevania. Like, it's like slap funk bass and stuff. I'm like, what's happening? It just was a very disorienting thing to me. So anyway.
Well, but I mean, the thing is that like that song very clearly comes from the Rondo Blood soundtrack, right?
Correct. Yeah. Well, Bloodlines too.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, they clearly were trying to branch out on Rondo of Blood and take advantage of CD audio. And then whoever decided to make Dracula X for Super Nintendo was like, oh shit, how do we make this sound good on the Super Nintendo? And they managed to make it sound pretty damn good. Last night before bed, I was going back and forth I have the soundtrack CDs in that stupidly huge collection of audio CDs they just released.
Yeah.
I was going back and forth with the songs from Rondo that are also on the Super Nintendo game and just listening to them kind of side by side. I mean, and obviously the audio CD sounds better.
Sure.
But I mean, the audio CD also sounds like 1990s MIDI instruments, which is not great sometimes.
What do you mean? It's always great. How dare you? No, it's not.
You love that chunky electric guitar sound.
Who doesn't love that in their video games? Also in their car.
I actually think the Super Nintendo translates that better and does a better job of making that sound a little bit more acceptable than some of the audio they have in Rondo of Blood.
Sure. I wouldn't disagree with that. I
can't give a lot of feedback on the music because the only thing I paid attention to was when we were at your house and it was in and out. When I played it at home on my emulator, I know I played it on an emulator, but I actually took the volume way down.
Yeah.
It's just because I didn't want to listen to it.
I think it's fine music. I think it just didn't fit. Like I was like, that's not what I would expect at all. I wanted it to be more grim or creepy or scary or whatever, but it was more like, hey, it's like a dance party, but it's like,
dance party.
The Belmonts are here with their whips.
There's some of that too later, but I mean, the other thing is we've already started doing it, and I'll take full blame for starting with it, but like this game suffers from the fact that it's similar to Rondo of Blood and that Rondo of Blood exists because so many people just look at Rondo of Blood and how much more capable it was at the time and look at this and they're just like, oh well, obviously Rondo of Blood is better. If Rondo of Blood didn't exist, I don't know that we'd be having the same conversation because I mean it's a pretty from a technical perspective in terms of like what it can do and how it looks and how it sounds, it's a good game. We'll get to gameplay and how
we'll get to legacy. Yeah, we'll get to all that stuff and like our kind of our opinions. But I understand where you're coming from. Believe me, I really do. And we'll talk more about that when we get to that point. But yeah. So Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? We have we have a lot of stuff about this game.
Yeah, we do. So, we're gonna. We're passing levels. So basically you have unlimited continues. And there is a password system. So Mike and I actually, when we played, we didn't realize that. At the end of the level, it shows you the password.
I knew there was a password system, but I did not understand that each time you finished a level, that thing in the background is showing you your password.
That's your password.
Yeah. Those nine, like whether it's the axe or the boomerang, whatever.
Like Castlevania 3 and doesn't Super have that too?
I don't remember.
I know 3 did because you had the
Why do you put me on the spot like this? Why do you want me to remember things instantly?
You never do that to me.
I don't.
Dick.
Anyway, no, but it's even in the manual for this game, if you can find it, there's a little spot for your passwords, and it has these 9 little like sections, like you could draw in them what your password was. I hope you didn't though at this point in your life.
Yeah.
That manual can't be. Yeah, can't be a cheap manual. But anyway, who do you play as in this game?
So you're of course you're Richter. You're a descendant of Simon Belmont from the first Castlevania.
Yeah.
So Richter is a renowned vampire exterminator.
Mm-hmm.
Renowned.
And why is he out trying to exterminate this vampire, Dracula?
So Dracula kidnapped Richter's girlfriend, Annette, who was 17.
Yeah.
We can get into the whole thing about Richter being 19.
Look, this is the 1700s, man. Like 14-year-olds were being sold off to be married. I can't blame a 19-year-old for dating a 17-year-old in 1761 or whatever year it was.
And but Dracula kidnapped Richter's girlfriend.
Are you going to cancel Richter? Is that what you're trying to do?
I might.
You're canceling him because he was 19? I mean, that'd be like a senior in high school dating like a junior in high school, potentially. Maybe you got held back a year.
Maybe he got held back.
Maybe.
Hashtag cancel Belmonts.
Exactly.
Nice.
Start it up.
I'm going to start it. So, and her younger sister, Maria. I didn't get to that. So, and then, oh God. Thank you, Robbie. Robbie just posted on the Discord talking about Annette, but it's Annette.
Please don't.
Why? Come on. Let's go. So
tell me about Dracula. Tell me about him. Like in the manual, they talk about Dracula. What does it say about him in there?
So actually, I appreciate that you're letting me read this because you enjoyed it so much. He is the proprietor of the evil castle and origin of all wickedness in the world. Believed to be about 800 years old, he's cruel and heartless. He at the same time possesses refinement and grace that would be expected only of nobility.
Yeah, so he's like a con artist. Like he's like a slick, handsome con artist, even though he's 800 years old. Yeah, Dracula seems like he's pretty greasy.
It's oddly specific.
What's that? It's oddly specific, yes.
It is. I just like that he's the proprietor of the evil castle.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he doesn't just own it; he also runs it. You know,
he has a little B&B business on the side.
That's right.
Nice.
He manages the evil castle. He's out there interviewing. He's like, "All right, you want to be the boss of one of our levels, Mister? I don't even remember. Like, well, let's say." But Mr. Ghost, that's an easy one. All right, Ghost, you want to be the captain of level 4, okay? You think you can hold down level 4? What's the evilest thing you've ever done? And then he'll tell you all about, he'll go over his evil resume. Yeah, exactly. And then you have to sit there and he has to decide, like, is this guy evil enough for my organization? Imagine getting fired by Dracula. That would suck.
Do you think this guy got fired by Dracula?
No, but he got fired by the Falcon. Anyway.
Oh, so got him.
The sub-weapons in this game, Jay, what are they?
So they're actually, it's kind of cool because they're, for the most part, they're similar to what was in the original game, in the original Castlevania. So you've got, of course, the axe, and when you throw it, it goes on that like half moon trajectory.
Yeah, semicircle.
You've got the boomerang, which is the cross boomerang. That when you throw it, it goes across the screen. And
one of my favorite weapons in the game. Unless they're enemies above me, then I really like the axe.
Yes. And then you've got, of course, the dagger, just like on the original. It's just the dagger. Nobody likes the dagger.
That one's only if you have no other options. I've died. I have to get a weapon. I got the dagger. Okay.
You're like, I don't have a secondary. Dagger.
That's fine.
Right. So, and then you've got the holy water. Oh, go ahead.
In this game, when you use the holy water, and this was something, I don't remember if this being the case of a change at this point or if it happened earlier. It used to be when you used one of your sub-weapons, it would take 1 heart. Mm-hmm. But in this game, the holy water takes 3.
I'd have to confirm it, but I think they did that in Castlevania 3.
I don't remember.
In Dracula's Curse?
Oh.
I don't remember either. I might have to look into that.
Valdor makes a good point. The dagger. Best weapon in Ghosts and Goblins, worst in Castlevania.
It's pretty accurate.
It's true.
Pretty accurate.
All right, and then you get the watch, and
the watch had some different bits to it because in the watch in like the original Castlevania, it looks just like it, but in that one it was just a time stop. That's all it did.
Yeah, this one like stops time, but it does this like circle,
which we'll get to that in a minute. And then you have the key, which isn't really a weapon.
Yeah, the key doesn't actually do anything except unlock doors, which you need to be able to rescue people and get.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can use to cause damage, though.
You can. You
Yes.
can. Doesn't he just like kind of like stab with the key? Isn't that essentially what I saw?
Yeah.
Like I never tried,
holds
but
it
it's
in front of himself, kind
he
of.
just goes,
hits people.
And I guess, I mean, if you're in a pinch, a big key like that could do some damage.
Yeah.
I was wondering why there were bite marks in it.
Hey, you know what? Key,
I thought it was
dagger.
filled with chocolate.
Oh, God. We're off the rails.
It was never filled with chocolate.
If I had to weigh my options between the key or the dagger, I'm probably going to go with the key.
I'd go dagger.
Really?
Yeah. Because you can throw the
it?
dagger across and it's a projectile. All right. So some of the, and I've tried so far to abstain
Yes.
from the comparatives between other games, right? But it's one of those things that it's hard to, when people are like, oh, you can't compare it against these other things that came before it because that's not fair for these reasons. But that's what we always do. We compare Zelda 2 to Zelda 1, and we compare Castlevania 2 to Castlevania 1. That's how they work. That's how these are the compare, like how does the progression happen, right? So the things I think that, when I played this game originally when it came out, you couldn't like directionally whip anymore, right? Like the cool part about Castlevania to me was Super Castlevania 4, I should say.
Is you could do the up angle,
You can
straight
go
ahead. You
8
can go straight
directions.
up, down.
You can go up, straight up. You can go straight down. You could do the thing where you like jiggle it around in a
you just
circle.
like limp wrist it. You just hold it, and you just hold it, and you could like kind of swing it around.
This game, it's like you are very utilitarian. You walk. You cannot run. You cannot glide back and forth or any of that stuff. You must just walk. You can do a backflip, and that's one of the things we'll talk about. But like your progression is stunted in just walking. You can jump, but good luck if you jump a lot in this game. Okay, and then the whip literally goes straight across. You cannot do it in any direction.
No.
The only way you can attack in any directions is by having a weapon like the axe or something like that would do that. So, and then some of the changes, some of the differences, in the reasons I think people had their issue or challenges with the game were there weren't a lot of things that you could do new. Like it kind of stripped you of some of those things like being able to run fast or whip directionally. But then like you got the things that they kind of gave you to offset that, like if you have a sub-weapon and you pick up another sub-weapon, it drops the other sub-weapon and you could pick it up instead.
Yeah, you could still decide which one you want to go with.
So we'll use the ghost and goblins, metaphor, or not whatever you want to call it, comparison.
Yeah.
In that game, if you have the dagger or the knife, or what do you want to call it, and you go get the spear, you're fucked.
Yes.
That's it. Now you got to hope you can go get the knife to spawn again. In this game, if you pick up a weapon, unless the screen has changed or there's something happening that requires you to move very quickly past it, you can decide between the two. It pops out. So it sits there next to you, sometimes right in your damn way,
Yeah.
because you can't avoid it. You have to wait. It will disappear from the screen. But you do get the choice to say, okay, I actually wanted the boomerang and not this dagger. I'll just go pick up the boomerang.
Yeah, because in all of its predecessors, you couldn't do that.
Yep.
If you whipped a candle and an axe fell out and you had the boomerang, and you walked into the axe, too bad.
You got the axe now.
You wait until you find another boomerang.
So you can also jump onto the stairs, which if you watch any of the speed runs for this game, that happens a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot of jumping on stairs and like
Which
jumping,
is nice
bouncing. And it's cool.
It's nice when you're playing, because on the traditional games, you had to walk up at all the stairs.
Yes.
One nice thing that I didn't think about that we didn't put on here is that the one thing I liked about this was when you started, whatever, you had your full whip. It wasn't like all of the other games where you got a little leather whip and then you talked about that on Matt and Mark's show, whipping the candle and the giant whip falls or the cross falls out.
Yeah, like I'm walking with my leather whip and I whip this torch and then magically there's an accessory that perfectly fits my whip right here. I'm going to add it on.
Yeah.
Like what are the odds of that? In that game, 100%, but everywhere else, very slim. I'd say in real life,
that was one thing I thought was nice, is you didn't have to build, because that was a big frustration. Even when I went back to play Castlevania 3, where you would get close to a boss and then all of a sudden you die, and then you're like, oh great, now I got to find an accessory weapon and I've got to build my whip up.
Yeah.
And if you had another character, because you could pick up the other characters, I'm jumping all over, but then you'd have to build them up too, where you don't have to do any of that.
Yep.
This one.
Well,
good news in this game, there are no other characters that you play as.
Right.
Yeah. In 3, they usually had those whip extensions, before the boss, so you weren't too screwed if you died. They usually throw in the dagger too, so that you had something, but it was obviously not optimal.
They're throwing
I get where you're coming from with Super Castlevania 4. And like what a huge leap that was compared to Castlevania 3, and then it does feel like you're going backwards in some regards when you go to Dracula X. But I don't know. I almost felt like, I don't know if this is looking back on it now or if I felt this way when I first played it. I don't know that it matters, but I always felt like Castlevania 4, while I really like it, it's one of the games that I immediately bought once I started collecting again, complete in box, because I really like the game in general. I do feel like it's a little bit gimmicky. Like they were investing a lot of time in trying to make that game feel like, hey, look at what we can do. Now we've got these cool levels, and you can whip in any direction, and then you're going to use the whip to swing like Indiana Jones, and like all this stuff, which was cool and really interesting. But I don't know, it changed the feel of the game, and I sort of appreciated it going back to the more traditional style in some way in Dracula X, even though it sort of also brought back some of the stuff that I hated about the earlier games.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, Jay, what are you doing? Stop texting on the show.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, get good.
Get good.
Tell me about item crashes.
So item crashes. Wow.
This is your segment, buddy. I'm trying to keep the boat going forward.
You normally do this section. I don't.
But I'm letting you. I'm very tired. Just kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So item crashes, basically, that's one of the cool things they had on this was item crashes. So basically, when your heart indicator was translucent, you had a heart indicator up in the upper right hand side of the screen.
Right.
So when that became translucent, that means you had enough to use the crash.
And so tell us what an item crash is.
Basically, it was like a hidden power of your sub weapon. So, couple of them that were cool, like if you had the boomerang, for example, if you hit it was X, I believe, on it. If you hit X when you had that, it would use more than just the typical. It wouldn't
just throw a boomerang or two boomerangs.
He would basically power up,
jumps up into the middle of the screen, and then all this the attack
boomerangs
takes over.
Everywhere.
Yeah, the attack takes over
everywhere.
I will say that it did look much cooler in Rondo when the giant cross would come up and down the screen and all that stuff. It was cool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sorry,
but it is nice, and that's definitely a great weapon to have with some of the bosses.
Oh my God!
Yeah. A good example would be the bat. What was the bat's name?
I was fussing with the who cares?
I don't know.
Dickhead McGee.
Anyways.
Yeah, Dickhead McGee the bat. That bat was a pain in my ass, but then I found out later, I was like, oh, I see what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
But whatever. But
it made it so much easier.
You use one of your item crashes against it, and it's like, okay, it's 2 hits and it's done, basically.
The boomerang item crash was really helpful against death in the clock tower, because he spawns those scythes that spin around and hit you, and I think they like slow you down, right? If you get hit by them.
Yes.
And
yes, that's true.
That boss is such a pain in the ass, and so having that available to take care of most of those scythes, because it seemed like it was random, so you sometimes you get none of them, in the hundreds of times you played it before you actually beat it, because you died so many times. But it seemed like sometimes you get none of those, and then sometimes I'd have 6 of them on screen, and it was like, what the fuck is going on?
It was so weird. That boss to me was the easiest one. I would just stand on a pedestal. I would jump up and hit him. He'd swing back and forth. If those things got close to me, you can whip them. So I would just whip it, and then I would just wait. I went through. I did not get a chance to finish this game just because of timing. I even tried when I got home, but I literally ran out of time on the end of stage 5. I had to wrap it up and come down here to actually write notes and stuff. But I just remember every time I fought him, which was I think 2 or 3 times, it was the same experience. I just kind of stood there. It was like, oh, this is gonna be a problem, and it never was. And maybe it was just RNG or whatever it was. But that was the easiest boss I fought the entire game.
Oh, that's funny, because I had a hard time with that one just because of the scythes kind of being so random, and like I said, sometimes you get like just 5 or 6 would show up, and then they'd all be coming at you, and so having the item crash with the boomerang where it takes out pretty much everything on screen, that was super helpful to
start over,
getting past when that happened.
Yeah. So the item crashes actually started in Rondo, right? Like that was and it's kind of been a staple of Castlevania ever since. I know it was in this, it was in Symphony of the Night. It's been in a lot of pretty much every, I think, Castlevania game since. I mean, I haven't played all of them, but I know that it's a kind of it's a de facto thing that you can use in a lot of those games. So, spoiler alert, there are 3 endings to this game. Okay. And there are multiple paths. Sometimes you get tricked into going the wrong way. Our friend Robbie, we had that happen to him, where if you fall on a specific area on those pedestals, you get automatically warped, but you miss things that you need, and in turn get a bad ending because of the catacomb, whatever it's called, warp or whatever. It's in the speedrun notes. But there are 3 endings, so spoiler alert. And Jay, why don't you tell us how you wind up with each of those 3 different endings?
Well, and with the different endings, of course, if you don't rescue any of the girls, that's pretty much the worst ending of the 3.
We should probably qualify that, it's Maria and Annette again.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The girls. It's pretty random. We've babbled long time now. Anyway, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
If you only rescue Maria, you get a different ending as well.
Right.
And of course, if you rescue both the girls, you get a different ending.
And that is considered the good ending.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if you rescue both, then
you get the weird Ryu from Street Fighter holding Annette and an odd-faced Maria peeking at, I don't know.
It's weird. But
just like embarrassed or something.
Yeah, maybe she's embarrassed.
It was just strange.
Let me ask you this, Mike. I know that you're a fan of the music of the first level, and I'm not saying it's bad. I like the music. Does it not sound like a Street Fighter song? Like it's like I feel like I should be fighting Guile at that point. Like I just like you mentioned Ryu, and I thought to myself when I was listening to that, I was like, this sounds like Street Fighter music almost. I don't know.
Well, there's some odd choices, and I think in Rondo also I didn't get a chance to play through all of Rondo because it's much longer. I did finish this, but I watched a playthrough of Rondo because I'd gotten about halfway through and I ran out of time, and I think I don't know. There's a lot of cringy stuff now, looking back on it, and the music definitely kind of it's appropriately themed for the cringe, I think.
Sure.
So yeah, there's some odd choices in some of those songs, and I can hear what you're talking about, and it being more like an appropriate for a fighting game than a Castlevania game.
It was weird. It's something that occurred to me, especially when you said the Ryu thing. I was like, oh, well, you being Jay, but I'm sorry. So, all right, we're gonna move on to the background and development about this game.
I want to hear what you got to say about that, my friend.
I'm gonna go over this one. So
thank God, because I'm gonna butcher these names. That guy ripped off Puffy's song.
Robert Plant told me there is still time to change the path you're on. Robert Plant said a lot of things. Okay, I wouldn't trust all of them. All right, background and development. This game was developed and published by Konami. Duh. Okay, it's the first thing you see when you turn the game on. Big old white screen, Konami logo. The good days of Konami, not the red logo Konami that nobody likes. Okay, anyway, the director of this game was Koyuki Yamashita. And that person had also worked as a programmer on Contra, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Snake's Revenge for the Famicom/NES. They also worked on the art and design for Castlevania Legends and Mystical Ninja starring Goemon for the Game Boy, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Famicom and NES. So if you have beef with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the NES, talk to Mr. Yamashita, because it sounds like he was involved in a lot of it. The producer was Kuniaki Kinoshita. And I was looking at the list of games that this person had worked on as a developer, producer, or whatever. Man, they worked on a lot of the ESPN like Winter X games and like all that like extreme this or, soccer that. They did a lot of the ESPN games for the Game Boy, Nintendo 64, PS2. They also worked on the Goemon games, like the Mystical Ninja games for Game Boy and Nintendo 64. And they worked on a number of SNES games, Animaniacs, Biker Mice from Mars, Batman Returns, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters, and of course, Dracula X. Duh. But a lot more too. So Mr. Kinoshita was like pretty prevalent. So yeah. And then the artist was Akihiro Yamada. And they also provided cover art for a number of PC Engine titles in Japan. So like Might and Magic 3, Wizardry 1 and 2, Wizardry 3 and 4, and then Front Mission 3 on PlayStation. Front Mission being like... Front Mission is weird because that's one of the Super Famicom games I run into that Squaresoft published. Okay. Yeah. But then like... It was a tactical RPG, but it was also a shooter, and then they made a MMORPG out of it. So it's been this like franchise that has just kind of branched all over the place. But I believe is Mr. Yamada was involved in the art for Front Mission 3. So that's enough about all that. Jay. Nice. Music and sound. We've already discussed some of the tracks because there are some very well-known tracks in this game.
Oh, for sure.
Right? You've got the classics. You've got Bloody Tears, and it's the hits here, man. The hits are all here.
Got Bloody Tears, and
it's like when they say like, I'm trying to think like, it's
like Bloody Tears, and
no, it's like Ace of Base's greatest hits featuring The Sign and others and more, like that. There are others. The list goes on.
Why do you pick the worst bands?
There's a terrible band. I was trying to think of a terrible band with a terrible hit.
You were thinking of that episode of The Simpsons with Baimon Sci-Fi Con, where it's like featuring so and others
and more. What is it?
Right.
Like when Uruguay plays Portugal or whatever. Ariaga 2, Galiaga, and Susetsu.
I hate them so much.
I'll just kill myself if Portugal doesn't win.
Oh my God.
Anyway, go on. Yeah, so bloody trees and so much more. They will be when Mr. Belmont's done with them.
Nice. Mr. Belmont?
Yeah.
You guys are on a surname.
I don't know him that well.
Oh well, okay.
Apparently, he's a teacher of the destruction of Dracula. So I mean, I took his class.
Okay. The proprietor of the House of Evil.
That's right. The different guy.
Yeah.
Go on.
So there's a whole crew of composers on this. So we could turn this into an all-night discussion, but I'm going to kind of give this a smaller version. So the main composers on it were Toyomoto Tamida.
Do I need to put this page in front of me again?
You might need to, because I'm going to butcher these.
I turned it over thinking you could handle all this because you put all this. Tomoya Tomita.
Yeah. So he basically, of course, did Dracula X, but he had a couple other notable things. Parodius was one, which is a terrible and amazingly great Super Famicom game, or Famicom game.
Both. Parodius for Famicom, and then there's a number of Parodius games, talking, chatting, whatever, yeah.
He had a list of games he had done. I pulled a couple big ones out for each one. So
I bet you did.
Yeah, I did. That's what she said. What?
Masanari Iwata?
I haven't finished with.
Oh, I see.
Finished with Toyota.
I'm sorry.
Yet.
I'll then keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So he did TMNT 3, the Manhattan Project. He also was composer on that. Go ahead. Now you can go.
Masanari Iwata.
And same thing, did Dracula X. He also did Parodius. I just love that game, so I put it on everybody. They did do it. But one of the other ones notable he had was The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
So they also had a number. All of these guys were on a number of the Goemon titles.
Guys and girls, possibly. I don't know.
Yes, guys and girls. So.
It's hard to say in these uncertain times.
And then the next one would be
Harumi Ueko.
Yes, who did also Parodius. I love that game.
Yeah, I know.
It's great. We need to do a show on that game.
Someday.
Okay, cool. So he also did a couple TMNT games. He did Turtles in Time, also did Tournament Fighters, and he did Gradius 3.
Boy, especially on the NES Famicom. What a stinker.
And then the last guy we got,
Masahiko Kimura.
Good job. Thank you. He did Parodius as well.
Yeah, more Parodius.
Yes. So
Parodii.
Great game. So
what else?
One of the other big ones I put down for him was he did DDR for Disney, the DDR Disney version, and he also did Suikoden.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool.
That's a little bit about the music and sound.
You want to give me some info on the old reception?
Okay. So we know that this is a polarizing game. Okay. And I think that you will see that flesh out in this reception section of the show.
I got a feeling that's why Mike picked it.
I don't think that's why he picked it.
I think that might be one of the reasons.
only reason why. I mean, I think I picked it because it lent itself to some good discussion, perhaps some heated discussion.
We are sometimes lacking. I think sometimes our opinions are very conjoined around here sometimes. So last episode, notwithstanding, I think generally we are like-minded when it comes to a lot of stuff. So that's why I want other people to pick games, because if I pick something I like, it's always going to be a 5. I like this game. Why wouldn't it be a 5? So
that's why I picked Altered Beast.
Yeah. Yes, and you gave it a 5. Wait, no. Yeah, John says Robbie loves Super Famicom. Yes, he loves it. Yes, fair. Does. All right, a little bit about the reception of this game. This game sold about 90,000 copies for the Super Nintendo. That is the second worst selling Castlevania game in the West. Can you, without looking at the notes, name the first worst or the absolute worst selling Castlevania game in the West? Mr. Chiaramonte.
I'm sorry, I already looked at the notes, so we're going to have to go to the audience.
Okay, we're going to go to the audience here. Let's see here. Anybody out there still listening? No, it doesn't seem like anybody.
And to put that into perspective, if you think of a game like Earthbound, right, which supposedly sold poorly, which is why everybody thinks it's worth the price of a reasonably used car these days. I think the number is like 125,000 copies.
Yeah,
Earthbound sold. In theory, is what we hear,
and that doesn't count all the dead stock that was out there that people obviously got their hands on as well, right?
Right.
And to give you even more perspective, I looked earlier, and I'm looking again now to confirm because I'm not crazy. The 48th best-selling game on the Super Nintendo, like we'll say Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, Super Ghouls and Ghosts sold 1 million plus copies. So that gives you an idea of the disparity between like the top 50 games that sold and this, which sold less than 1/10 of that. So, and then to answer our question, I probably should say, Robbie has said Kid Dracula. No, that is not it. I'll edit this out so it doesn't look like you don't know what you're talking about. And it's not fair because you wouldn't know. Bloodlines for the Genesis.
I think he was being funny.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, he could be right. Whatever. I said in the West, though. That one didn't sell in the West.
No.
So maybe
that's why I think he's being funny.
I don't think he's ever funny.
I think Robbie's hilarious.
He is funny. Bloodlines sold 40,000 copies of Castlevania Bloodlines for the Genesis and Mega Drive, whatever. Sold 40,000 copies. So, yeah, you would think, again, I know it doesn't have the Nintendo tax, but you would think that game would be way more expensive. So.
I was just reading Robbie's.
Yeah, I know what you're reading.
He said, yeah, it did, assholes. It was on the Game Boy. And then John, don't back him and don't encourage him.
Yeah, it did.
In the fucking West.
Okay, we'll just edit all this out. I never proclaimed that I know anything. People are out here giving me shit. I'm okay. That's fine. I'm just giving you what I found. You want to do the research on the show? Do the research on the show.
The Game Boy games sold less than
you guys want to go write the notes? That will be fine with me. You want to go vet your sources and tell me what sold what? That'd be awesome.
You got angry tired Mike tonight.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway,
you wanted the bull, you got the horns.
Okay, how about this? On non-portable systems, this game was the second worst selling game in the West. I don't have the sales numbers for Kid Dracula in front of me, so I can't tell you whether there were less of those on the Game Boy or not. I'll assume there was. But on consoles, not portables or handhelds, this was the second worst selling game.
On real systems.
Yeah, on the real systems. The ones people care about. And again, if Bloodlines only sold less than half as many, it's also about less than half as much. I mean, a loose cart for Bloodlines is like, what, $70 to $80? I mean, geez, That's because nobody cares about the Genesis. I hate to be that way, but they do. It just doesn't have the tax. I do. I bought Jerry Glanville's Pigskin Football, for the love of God. But anyway. All right. And then, yeah, in comparison as well, the Super Castlevania for SNES sold around 500,000 copies.
Well, that's because you could whip in different directions.
It was also very new at the time, I'd say.
Yes.
It came out right around the launch of the SNES.
And I think that's the other part. Did you talk about that, like when this came out in comparison?
No, but I'm going to get to all that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's get back on the tracks here. Okay, I think part of the reason this game suffered from a sales perspective is because every review that I read when I was reading video game magazines at that time, all I heard about was how great Rondo was, how great this game was on PC Engine. And I wound up getting a copy, 30 years ago, and it was great. And everybody wanted to compare it against it. And I think it's, it's almost like Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation versus Resident Evil 2 for the Nintendo 64. Like, you can only do so much, right? There's only so much you can put in there and do. You're going to have to strip it out. It can't be as big or have Red Book audio or whatever it is, right? It just can't. So, but I think the problem is, and the reason it sold so poorly is it's a super late release for a platform. And also, comparatively, the game that everybody perceived it against was much better. Even if it was import only, I knew that. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not buying that because I can tell comparatively it's not as good. And at that time, you had to make that decision. I couldn't spend $60 on both. You know what I mean? It's like I'm buying one or the other.
But the thing is, like, I don't know. At the time, I didn't even know anybody that had a TurboGrafx, let alone the TurboGrafx with the CD-ROM accessory.
Right.
So it was like, even if I read a review at the time that was like, "Oh, don't waste your time, import Rondo Blood." Number one,
where and how?
Right, where? Because like the internet was not really a thing for me yet, so I wasn't going to be able to find anybody who was just like, call this number and give us your credit card and we'll ship you a copy, which was how it was done during the time.
Funko would have got you a copy. They wouldn't have. I'm just kidding. They would not have.
I don't think we had any Funko Lands by us for...
This was even before they had stores. I meant more along the lines of they had those things in the back of like Game Pros. Were like, hey, sell us your games and this is how much we'll give you for them. I was just joking. Honestly.
So there was that. And then also it was like, okay, so, fine, whatever. That's a better game. But like, you're comparing it against the thing that pretty much nobody in the US has.
I'm going to give you an analogy. Okay. And it's very relevant to the subject matter. I talked about this with Robbie, and I might have talked about it with you as well. But there was a guy on one of like the WADA gaming groups complaining. And I'm sorry, this is an aside, and who knows if I cut this or not. But there was a guy in the WADA gaming groups complaining about how little money he had made selling some very nice copies of games. And those games were Revengers of Vengeance and Hook for Sega CD. And they sold on Heritage Auctions, and they sold for like $400, and it was like a 9.8 A++. I think you saw the conversation probably, Mike, in the Discord, on the Collector's Quest Discord.
Yeah.
But the point there is that, to your point, you have to have somebody to care about vintage games, hard enough, retro games, then care about the Sega CD, then care about Hook, and then care about it being graded and how many of them there are. So you're really whittling it down, like you said, to like say, how many people did I even know that had a TurboGrafx that could play a Super CD-ROM? You had to have the Super CD-ROM card and the CD. You couldn't have just played it with a stock CD. You have to have the upgraded card or a Duo. Like, there weren't that many. I was that guy back then. There just weren't that many. I don't know how many people I even knew. My cousin was the only other person I really knew that collected or got into turbo stuff. And that's just because we both did. So your point is a very valid one to say, that's fine. That's fantastic. Maybe the Bugatti drives better than the Honda, but I can't get a Bugatti over here.
It's like, you know what it is? It's like the car journalists who are like, oh, well, this BMW is fine, but it's not nearly as good as the Germany-only manual version they have. It's like, well, who's going to import that to get that one? Yeah, fine, it's great, but like, talk about the thing that we have here on its own if I can't get the other thing.
And I will say again, I was the audience of person that said, this has dissuaded me from wanting to, and I did play it. You know what I mean? I remember vividly playing the game, but I remember being like, yeah, it's not as good. But like, who's playing the other version? Like, I was the one guy like, oh, that one's not as good as the Japanese only PC engine Akumaju Rondo. And they're like, what the fuck is what you said mean? I don't even know. Can I play this game or not? Can I buy it? And I told them no.
The weird thing about this game is being a kid who had Nintendo Power at the time, and I went to look at what issues of Nintendo Power they were advertising this in, because, you know, that whole magazine was an advertisement, but you know, I loved it and I still do. But I was like, what issue was that in? Because I don't even remember seeing it. And I went back and I clearly remembered having that issue, and I remembered seeing some of the other games in there, and it was like, I don't even remember seeing this. So there was also just, I think, a really complete failure to even market it to like the core audience of kids who might actually be interested in buying the game, right? Like the Super Nintendo was already kind of long in the tooth, but you know, I was still playing it. I think at that point I was playing some more PC game stuff, because like I had Doom and, you know, LucasArts adventure game, point and click games rather. And I was kind of waiting for the N64. There was the PlayStation coming, but I wasn't ready to jump ship from Nintendo. So, which was probably the wrong decision.
It's funny you kind of bring all that up and kind of like, when did this come out and when was this, you know, like you had to kind of go back and retroactively look. I remember vividly, okay, like, and I know I'm a little bit older, but I remember vividly, like I was big into other gaming mags. So I was big into Next Generation because I was a PlayStation nerd and I wanted to know about all this stuff. And I bought GamePro as well. I'm sure I had a subscription to it at least. I know I would get it monthly. And they did the same thing with this game where it was like an afterthought. There was no like full page, like front page, like cover or anything about it. It was very buried to go. And we have a couple of the reviews here, those reviews specifically, and they both came out at the same time in October of 95. And I'm gonna read both of them, and I'll be brief because I know we're running long here. But so GamePro magazine number 75, October 1995, they gave it 2.5 out of 5 in their scoring, right, overall. And this is all they had. Okay, there was a one page kind of buried in their pro view, or you know, pro review or whatever they called it. And it says, and it's funny because I should also say, when you first open up that issue of GamePro, the very first thing you see is an advertisement for the game. Like it's just a full page advertisement with like the credits of who wrote the, you know, the editor and blah blah blah. Yeah. But so I get to like page, I don't remember, 126 or whatever it was of the issue buried, and it's like it ends with this. It's a shame the 16-bit Castlevania games had to end this way, where the 8-bit endeavors gracefully exited with the excellent Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. This last hurrah is a muted one. For an awesome alternative version of this title, you may want to check out the import-only PC Engine game. Other than that, it's back to the grave for Castlevania. That's the review that I read that I was like, yeah, I need to play this other game. Why would I buy this one for $60 or $70 at that point, probably in 1996, when I can get the other one imported for probably $40? Like, I think I got it from Bob Updike, or somebody brought it into the shop one day and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for.
I forgot about Bob Updike.
Yeah, but we had an import guy in the area that did Neo Geo and PC Engine stuff and all that back in the day. So that also probably helped my cause. But ultimately, I remember reading this review and being like, I was working at Funkoland at this exact time when this issue came out, and I read this and thought to myself, why would I play this inferior version of this game when I had the means to play the better one? So that probably colored my opinion. And then Next Generation's review was issue 10, October 1995. Next Generation was like this. Do you remember Next Generation magazine, Mike? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, it was very like, you know, obviously it's about the next generation of gaming. They would talk about the comparisons of things like the Saturn versus the PlayStation and Neo Geo CD and all that stuff. So yeah, this is their review of Castlevania Dracula X. Don't everyone jump just yet. What a perfect line for this game, by the way. Don't jump just yet, Jay. Mm-hmm. You might get run into it by a bat or like a skeleton dog or something.
Right.
Okay. This isn't exactly a new Castlevania game. Actually, this is a port of the PC Engine titled Dracula X. Okay, that's not true. It's not. Okay, it's not a port. It's not fair to say that because, Mike, you could describe what a port is better and more eloquently than me if you wanted to. Would you say that this is a port of the PC Engine game?
Only loosely. I mean, yeah, they reused the assets and the music, but they clearly couldn't do a 1-for-1.
Right. So it's not a port. A port is attempting to convert something from one platform to the other in a very similar fashion. This was saying we can't do that. We're gonna have to modify it heavily, right? You just can't. So okay, let me keep going on here. Okay, there are colorful but flat backgrounds, enemies you've seen before, and non-configurable picky controls that combine to try the patience of even the most ardent of Belmont clan devotees. Konami, a company generally reliable for at least interesting fare, must simply be hoping to make a quick buck in an otherwise dry Super NES season. There's 8 levels of no-frill side-scrolling action here without an original or interesting thought in its Wolfbane stuffed head. Whip fetishists might get a kick out of it, but everyone else should steer clear. 1 out of 5 stars. Now, I will say this. Next Generation was trying to be a little edgy. And I do think that they were... what I liked about reviews like this when I was of that age was to say, they are not shackled by Nintendo to say, this has interesting gameplay mechanics, or something that you're dancing around the fact that it's not good. They're being very candid about whether they think it's good or not. And I liked that, okay? Now, I don't know if it's all totally fair, especially as I play it more recently. I wouldn't say that it's a 1 out of 5, foreshadowing. I don't think it's a 1, okay? But they make some decent points, but at the same time, they're also like, hey, it's a port, and that's not necessarily the truth. Although that's how everybody perceived it back in the day.
Well, and some of the comments they even made in here, it says non-configurable picky controls. It's the same controls that every fucking Castlevania game has.
Except the last one they made, and the one that this was based on. That's the problem. I think the problem is, I agree with what you're saying.
Well, but even
1, 2, and 3, sure.
Yeah.
But 4 wasn't that way.
But again, you had the different whip controls.
Right. Rondo wasn't that way either.
No.
Is what I'm saying. I think that's what they're getting at. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying it's a hearkening back to earlier times from a gameplay perspective.
When I read this, I take this as they're hitting, you have to hit the right trigger to use your whip now instead of hitting X or whatever. It just seems silly.
You want to say something, Mike? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So, John was asking what issue of Nintendo Power it is. It's for those looking, it's issue 76, which was a Killer Instinct issue. So, what I distinctly remember having this issue, but because of Killer Instinct and because of the emphasis that Nintendo was placing on the time on the Nintendo 64. And the fact that Killer Instinct was made by Rare, and it was all this new high-end 3D crap, and I remember being excited about that. I remember being really into. They go into some of the technical stuff about how they were porting it to the Super Nintendo just briefly, which really interested me because even at that age, like that stuff was what I was interested in. The only reason I got into programming was because I wanted to make games, so that was kind of like right up my alley.
And then here you are making games,
right? So sort of, but then that got followed up with immediately Donkey Kong Country 2 in that same issue of the magazine, which again, it talking about kind of the cool special effects. Then Doom, then more stuff about the Virtual Boy, which I thought was cool. I remember trying it out at Toys R Us, but just being like, there's no way my mom and dad are getting me this.
They're not buying it. There's no sales pitch that's going to get me this thing, which was probably for the best.
Just kind of a cool thing, whatever. And then you get to it, it's page, 46 in the issue, and it's kind of like you were saying, Nintendo Power is obviously an advertising arm of Nintendo, so they have to say good things about the game. But even their review is kind of like muted. It's like, oh well, even though Castlevania 4 had 8-way moving, 8-way whipping, you can only do left and right here. And it's very much like focusing on how it's kind of more like, or not a lot, but it's talking about how it's more similar to the older Castlevania games,
right?
And trying to like talk up the good stuff about the game and the story, and ignore the shortcomings, of which there are many.
Again, they're shilling. They're trying to sell games.
Absolutely.
Right. So it makes perfect sense. I get what you're saying.
But the thing that is remarkable to me is about like they were really trying hard, but totally failed, because I don't remember ever seeing that article.
Right. It was just like an afterthought. It was not just like these others. It wasn't something that was prominent, like, hey, this is the Castlevania Dracula X issue or anything like that. Like, yeah. So I totally get it.
And then it was immediately followed by Chrono Trigger. They were going through some of that stuff in that issue, and I was like, oh yeah, Chrono Trigger. I definitely looked at this.
And looking back, both games just as revered, right? I mean, when it's one, they're almost in the same chronological order. It's Castlevania, Chrono Trigger. I mean, like, they're both S tier. No, okay.
Yeah, and then and then I missed this. There's Ogre Battle, and I definitely remember reading about this and being like, "Damn, I really want this game. I can't find this anywhere."
Yeah, no, that was very common. You're like, I remember that vividly, being like, Where can I find this game? Like, I remember looking for, even Chrono Trigger was a hard one to find. I think I wound up buying it at Sears, and I was like shocked, and nobody else had it. I couldn't find it anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think it's time to move into our LJN game ratings, and I think we should probably talk to John first. Let's give John a call. Okay. So I say let's pick the order now, so we're not constantly talking about it.
We can do that.
I say we do John, then we do Robbie. Okay. So we'll go 1, 2. We'll let Mr. Chiaramonte go last, or do you want to make a case? Which would you rather do? You want to go 3rd, 4th, or 5th, sir?
I'll go 3rd.
Okay.
I will present my case for this game.
And then 3 will be Mr. Mike C. And then I say sashimi. And then you went last time, so I'll go last this time. Deal? All right. So Jay, me. All right. I'll edit all this crap out. All right. So let's make a phone call. One moment. I have to pull him up here. John Young.
I agree that the controls were a step back, by the way, in terms of how stiff and frustrating they were at times. We'll get to that later.
We absolutely will. One moment. All right, there we go. That's why I couldn't find them. Sorry. Oh, I got to connect it up. It's. Hey, man, listen. I'm running around this place doing a lot of work. You got to give me a break. All right.
I am taking applications for a new co-host.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Cool. You want to take over the rent?
No, you're still paying the rent.
Okay,
I'm not paying that.
I got it. Okay, I see how this
You're
works.
still the
As
proprietor.
they say, the rent is too damn high.
What was that, Mike?
You're still the proprietor.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you're still the proprietor of the
I'm no longer
castle of evil.
I'm no longer making the decisions around here, though.
Yes.
All right, we're going to call John. This time for real.
Hey, what's up?
Nothing.
Nothing.
There we go.
John's.
Good Lord. Captain Chicken and Waffles. Mr. John Young, everybody.
The KC masterpiece himself.
Mr. Fammy Box himself.
Hey, who's in charge of the music for John?
You don't let me touch this thing.
It's right there.
It wasn't.
I watched you jump and try to do it.
You were fucking off doing whatever over here. Enough with the guns.
I can't be in charge of everything.
You want to be.
I can only be the proprietor.
You want to be. That's the problem.
I can't run the evil castle.
All I know is the composer of Max is talking to his lawyer about suing you guys for royalties because this is the most play that song's gotten in decades.
I got bad news for him on the royalties front.
I was going to say, first of all, royalties implies that we make any money, which we don't. So they can have 100% of the proceeds of the money that we've made from this show. It's all theirs. Number two, you are absolutely correct. I'm sure you're right. So, Mr. Young, how are you? You are joined by myself and Jay, as always, and then Michael Chiaramonte, as you may know, as Clearvus on Instagram and the Collector's Quest Discord.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, if I vaguely remember you speak Polish, we could just turn this into a Polish podcast.
Oh, yeah. That'd be interesting, although my Polish is a little rusty.
So
my pronunciation's horrible, so anyway, no. When I go down the road.
It's a good thing both these things have mute buttons. Go ahead.
No, I'm doing great. Do you want me to start off with my pickups? Because I got some
of course. How are you? What have you purchased? And then give me a rating of the game and then get the hell out of here.
So as I said, I'm doing great.
Tell us about your biggest pickup recently.
My biggest pickup? Oh, you must be talking about Number Munchers Sealed. Pretty exciting. Me and Joan Bone, a couple math dorks.
Yes, Number Munchers is what I was talking about. The classic that all kids love.
I loved that game. That was the highlight of like 6th grade.
It's no Math Man, but it's good.
Math Man?
Wasn't that what it was called? That might have been a regional thing.
Could have been.
It was a ROM hack. We'll just put it that way. Go on.
So you're talking about the extra set of Famicom box keys that I picked up. I'm now a 2 set of keys man with the 339. So pretty exciting about that.
And what is it called again? A what?
Famicom box, all one word.
Oh, I see.
You can drop the com if you really know about it.
Yeah, if you know what you're talking about, it's just a Fammy box.
What does it look like? How many games can you put in it? Not you. I'm talking to Jay. I'm talking to Jay.
Oh, never mind.
Go ahead. Go ahead, John. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It looks like a Soviet school bus without the yellow paint.
I was just being a Famicom box gatekeeper for a second, and I felt super dirty about it. Oh, yeah? What does it look like? What's their... Name one song that they did that isn't like a top 40 song. Give me a name of one of their albums.
15, and it's gray.
As he shows me the picture that you posted. Go ahead.
And it takes ruples.
Jay's liked more of my Famicom box pictures lately than Mike has. Not that it was a competition. And then I also purchased probably the biggest thing that I've ever had to spend. Well, I know the most I've ever spent money on, a house. So
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Kansas City, a lot more expensive than Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Hey.
But hey, when you're Captain Chicken and Waffles, you can afford it.
The KC Masterpiece himself.
It's not KC Masterpiece anymore. He's got promoted. Chicken and Waffles. Captain.
How do you get promoted past Masterpiece?
To Captain Chicken and Waffles. Thank you very much. Maple syrup, chicken, waffles, butter,
ice cream. Maybe
nothing wrong with
it. Is a captain higher than a chief? Because it's Master Chief and then Captain Waffles.
Master Chief is trash compared to Captain Chicken and Waffles.
All right.
So moving on, you bought a house.
This episode's off the rails. Mike, you're not getting any sleep.
I know. I'm leaving.
Other random thing, I did pick up. I just grabbed all my extra Famicom stuff and including a couple of games. I just went through about 230 Super Mario Brothers ones and.
All right, guys. Mike left. We can do whatever we want now.
Nice. Open them all up.
Finally.
The earliest ship date that I found was 1985, the 35th week. So like late August, early September. So pretty exciting.
Yeah, that was a lot of that was a lot of Mario Karts to go through.
Cartridges, not Mario Karts. I should have been more specific.
Sorry. There was a whole lot of Mario Family box carts.
Yeah.
It's a box, and you put Famicom in it.
Yeah. exactly.
There you go.
So Dracula X. I felt bad for a long time for not owning this one, and as the price has gone up, I'm like, I'm not spending this much. And since you guys forced me to play it, I'm kind of happy I don't own a copy. So to a certain extent, I enjoyed it more when it came out, because I wasn't I was more of a Nintendo Power kid, so I didn't have like the reality that there's a import that's better. I feel like, well, sorry, let me take a step back. Castlevania 4 was essentially a demo of the Super Nintendo's capabilities. Like you can multi-directional a little bit more. Look at how much better the controls are.
A tech demo. Like that was Jay.
Okay. No, I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, it wasn't as much a tech demo. It wasn't like Uncharted for, PlayStation 3. But I feel like Dracula X was more of a let's show off that we can try to fit this TurboGrafx game onto a Super Nintendo. And they didn't care so much about those controls because
obviously
not being able to whip in the different directions. And then some of that platforming that, honestly, since this is around the time that PlayStation came out, that like, hey, look, we're going to make you jump to the very edge of something to another very edge of something. And if you're not exactly pixel perfect, you're going to fall. Also with Dracula X, that last battle with Dracula, spoilers, nobody wants to jump around on a bunch of pillars and potentially fall. I get it, kind of, get your blood pumping a little bit, but that's not the best final battle. So anyway, there are aspects of Dracula X that I like. It reminds me a little bit of, what's that Mickey game?
Fantasia?
Wait a second. No.
Fantasia 2?
Castle of Illusions?
Closer. No, it's Magical Quest.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
Yeah. It's got a little bit of that aesthetic. Honestly, I don't know if it's because it's got X in the title, but it reminds me a little bit like of the level layout of Mega Man X. And it definitely has that Castlevania feel. So I definitely kind of understand why people like it. But it's too much of a step back and too much of like a tech demo for me. Visual demo for me.
Okay. So
that being said, first level graphics amazing. I don't know why they call it Burning Town. It seems like it's either like a premonition name of what it's going to happen while you're in the level, or it's
How do they know?
Just ironic. Yeah, exactly. How they know. But then there's other levels where the graphics didn't look as nice, so it seemed like it hadn't been quite finished. Like they tried to pack too much in.
Like that one, and there's that one level that's super drab. Like it's like almost monotone gray. I can't think of which one it is. Like 4 or 5. I don't remember. Like I played them a few times. It's just like so unfinished. Like you said, like, okay, the other ones are so detailed. Like you got the wavy fire, the heat, the heat radiating in the background and all this stuff. And the other ones have these giant gears, like 3 or whatever. And then there's that one where it's just like, yeah, we have a gray color palette for this level, and that's it.
And this is in that
it's like
generation
Quake.
Of like,
look like a Quake level.
This is in that generation like Vector Man for the Genesis, where it's like, we just care about you seeing the first level and thinking it's awesome, and then going out and buying it. And then like the back end, it's not going to be that great.
Yeah.
So I think some of that. Sorry, John. I think some of that is because of Rondo of Blood. Like Rondo of Blood, most of the backgrounds I found were pretty basic.
Comparatively, I could see what you're talking about.
So you're saying Rondo of Blood, more basic background than...
let's discount the first level, because I agree that it's kind of like the sizzle, right? It's like they wanted people to see that and be like, whoa, this game is amazing. I felt like most of the rest of the levels, that like what Mike was saying and what you were saying, they're kind of basic and boring looking almost in some cases, but they're very similar to what the levels look like in Rondo.
And that makes sense. I still not even played Rondo, so I can say that some of the level design is really good, but then I felt like the Medusa heads get annoying after a while. The bats get annoying. Honestly, I feel like the Ninja Gaiden games are better in that kind of like dodge the bird situation. So I feel like if you're going to try to like use that same gimmick, you need to at least do it as well or kind of build on it. But yeah, I mean, I don't need atmosphere, except for it's a Castlevania game. It's about atmosphere. It's like Metroid, right? Like, and I feel like maybe not TurboGrafx 16, but more like Sega Genesis or any like the CD-based games early on. There's times where they tried to incorporate some of that visual and didn't quite, like there would be like a afterthought 2D image and then like the cool like gimmick of the time graphic. But the level that I'm thinking of was, I think it was like wooden hallways and then like some cement like dividers.
You had to go down. That was the one that had like the well, they used to call it the pork chop, but the meat on the bone, like the health, right? Yeah. You could continually go down and get it, but you'd have to come back up and go back around. And if you fell down, you'd have to go, you know, like, but yeah, it was like that brown, like everything was brown except for the concrete walls were this weird thick gray. Like it just looked like we need to define that these rooms are divided, you know, kind of thing. Like it was very like contrast on purpose.
And Comic Zone did that so much better with the page splits. Fun fact, that pork chop filled with peanuts.
It's all peanuts, yeah. God damn you, Zelda. Always haunting us with their peanut bags.
Did Edward Cullen tell you that?
Maybe. Anyway.
And so I feel like I am being a little too harsh on the game, and maybe it's just because like I wanted it to be so much more, especially after that first level and kind of the build up. And maybe that is where the Rondo like hurt a lot of other people's expectations. But like when I think of like Super Metroid, it's all mood, and they kept you in that mood, and they made things interesting. They'd leave, you know, like the spoilers, the glass tunnel like cracking was late enough in the game where like you discover something new as you're in it to kind of pull you in a little bit more. And then, you know, the fact that it's in the same Nintendo Power as Chrono Trigger, like, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if you're going to spend that kind of money, think about it. I mean, and the other end of it too is at that time, if it is $60 for a game, you know, you're thinking about buying the Nintendo 64, you're thinking about buying a PlayStation, you're looking at the games that are coming out, the new like flash of, you know, 3D games. Are you going to spend $60 on like a system, a type of platformer, quote unquote, that you don't like that you kind of got burnt out on, like the old gimmick? Like nobody's nostalgic for like 16-bit like Metroidvanias, I guess.
Sure.
So that's kind of like I could see why maybe it wasn't doing as well at that point, why it was easy to kind of trash on it from a non-Nintendo Power perspective. But my score, 3, and that's because there's some really good level design, there's some cool graphics. I hate that they took away, like, it's just one character. I mean, Rondo had at least one other character, right?
Yes, Rondo you could play as... What is the younger
you could play
girls?
as Maria.
Maria, yes.
Okay. So it just seems like they limited so much. They took away the special weapon stuff, or like the dangling of the whip. I mean, come on, that was the coolest part of Castlevania 4. It's a good game, and I'm sure there's people out there that are like, this is an amazing game. It's the best game ever. For me, it was like, there's better Castlevania games, even on, you know, I would take a step back and even say, like, I'd rather play, like, Holy Diver on the Famicom, just so that I can kind of go there. But I disagree on the music, though. I love the music. And I feel like Konami, especially with the Castlevania games, has been killing it for years. Maybe it is kind of jazzy a little bit, but I was into it.
Feels like, I just feel like it's like this like funky slap bass. Like I couldn't get past it. I was like, I just felt like I legitimately felt like in that first level, and I know we keep talking about it, I felt like I was gonna fight Guile. Like I'm like, okay, this is the Guile theme music. Do
you mean like maybe like RBI baseball?
No, not at all.
Not as funky as that guy, huh?
That guy's
he was getting after it.
That was appropriately funky.
Oh well.
Anyway, no, it was fine. So 3.0.
No, 3.0, and I would say I like the RBI baseball music better.
I agree. All right.
Yeah, that's my energy for today.
Hey, John, don't you have one other thing you want to plug that's coming up in 10 days?
Yeah. Oh, so you're all going to be in the Kansas City area, I'm sure of it. Clearvus, I got extra room on my table if you're interested. We have the KC Retro swap. It's going to be pretty big, supposedly. Got a much larger space. Kansas City is not nearly as tapped as like the rest of like Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, at least from my experience. So people bring good stuff. I'm going to bring about 1,200 Famicom games.
Brag much?
I'm sure I'll see. Well, hey man, if you want to bring a couple hundred Super Famicom games, you're welcome to.
I might have to ship you a couple hundred.
No, so yeah, I'm looking forward to tabling. It's been since May, and I've been buying stuff, and I've not been getting rid of it, and I just spent all my money on a house. So somebody buy my games.
Somebody buy it.
Please, for the love of God, I'm dying. I need to eat.
Oh, Gil, they're messed up on you.
Close the deal, Gil. Close the deal. These Colecos will rust up on you like that. Anyway. All right, sir. Well, with that, I feel we should probably bring the music in at the appropriate time this time.
Play me off. All right.
Yeah, that's right. We're playing you off.
All right. Well,
I'll call you tomorrow.
see you guys.
All right.
Yeah. Later.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye, John.
I hung up this time. Didn't let him float.
Oh, you know what? We didn't.
Mr. John Young, the KC masterpiece.
Have you told John what you retitled him as in your phone?
No.
Just take a screenshot of that and text it to him.
Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
You should.
That's why you couldn't find him.
That is exactly
Yes.
why. Because I changed his name to KC Masterpiece.
It says Casey.
What a great nickname. And now that he's bought the house, it'll probably stick for a little while.
Get it? It'll stick. Barbecue
Get
sauce.
it? Yeah.
Sticks to your ribs.
Guess what time it is?
How do you like your ribs?
Sticky, I guess. I don't really know where you're going with that. It doesn't.
Barbecue
really...
sauce flavored?
Yeah, I want them smoked.
Flavored.
All right, we got to call
for some all-dressed chips.
Dressed all over in zesty mordant.
Yep.
All right, let's call our friend Robert.
You got this? You want me to get this queued up?
I got this one ready to go.
Oh, let me move it for you.
It's ready. I already did it. Hopefully he's still awake.
Hello.
And now, with the perfectly timed theme music and no stumbling or errors whatsoever, it's time to introduce Mr. 8-Bit Supremacy, Robbie Coleman. Everybody. I'm bad! That was so much better than what we did for John. Poor John deserved better than we call him, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, scrambling to find the sound clip. That was amateur hour, man. Anyway, Robbie, how are you?
I'm all right, man.
Good.
Pop quiz. Who is Gil from The Simpsons based on?
Boy, Gil from The Simpsons? Who is he based on? I don't know. I've never thought about that. I don't know.
You're being sarcastic, or
no? He's being serious.
No, I don't know. I really don't. I've never thought about it.
Jack Lemmon and the character he plays in Glengarry Glen Ross.
See, I had to assume it was either a character from Glengarry Glen Ross or Used Cars, but all I could think of was Alec Baldwin from that movie.
Right.
Like
Coffee
all I
for
can think
closers.
of. And
when he's doing the dialogue about his brass balls.
Yep, it makes perfect sense. Yes. Excellent.
Anyway, I just wanted to grill you right at that.
I deserved that. How are you, sir? How you been?
I'm all right, man. I as you know, because I popped up on the sister podcast you're now on, Matty Ice Show. You called me up on.
We called him.
I was laying in bed because I was sick with COVID for the second time, and I was like, well, fuck it, I'll jump on this show too. And you called me. So.
Why the hell not? There was nothing else going on.
Literally nothing. Yeah.
You were playing supercars again. I saw. I'm just kidding. Nobody would do that. I wouldn't.
Think of Race America, an equally bad racing game.
Never accuse you of playing Race America again. That's what I meant.
No, I actually played a good game when I was laying around quarantining. I played through Journey to Silius again.
Oh yes, a classic.
Fantastic game.
Indeed. That's all I got. Indeed.
I did a lot of rearranging my collection because I was bored, and I've just kind of been also trimming the fat on some of my stuff too, which led to a horrible afternoon of me playing through every Color Dreams and or Bunch or American Video NES unlicensed cartridge.
What a poor decision.
That looked like a very unpleasant time.
That's why I did it. I was like, it'll make me hate some of these so I can actually sell them off.
So I was driving back today from the East Coast of the state, and I got a notification on my phone that said, "Are you still interested? Buy it now for $3,999.99. Peekaboo Poker NES authentic box and cartridge, Panesian rare game." And I thought, was I originally interested? And I remembered what was going on. I was like, oh right, I see what's happening.
I was gonna say,
you're one of my many shill watchers. I like to call it.
That's right. I'm a shill watcher of his auction to try and promote it. So yeah, Mike.
Anyone out there listening who wants to buy that?
Nobody's out there listening. Don't worry. But no, Mike, jump on eBay and watch his $4,000 Peekaboo Poker Panesian complete in box.
Okay. I'll do that. And then you turn down every order with, "I know what I have."
Yeah.
We'll make him. I was going to make you some offer, and then I thought he might take it.
Maybe.
Anyway, very good. So you played all the Color Dream games. That was a huge mistake. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Boy.
Not a lot of bangers.
Yeah, you haven't really lived until you played a good solid 20 minutes of Moon Ranger on the NES.
Or Tag and Dragon.
Oh yeah, that's another winner. Pesterminator.
There's so many good things that happen in Tag and Dragon. You know, like there are so many dragons, right? There's none.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Percodius or
Paradicus Conflict?
Yeah, the Paradicus Conflict. That's it.
Oh, it's garbage.
Yes.
That one went in the sell pile. Like instantly, I was like, this is unplayable.
Yet the one that I want, you're not selling.
Which one's that?
Master Chew.
Oh yeah, I'm keeping that one.
You got a kid. Nobody wants to sell it anymore, so that's fine.
It's kind of funny. I mean, I put them in. My criteria was like, if it's funny and makes me laugh and it entertains me somewhat, because it's like so bad, it's funny. You know, then yeah, sure, I'll keep it.
That's why we collect terrible VHS movies. It's the same. It's the same premise. It translates.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
But I came to the conclusion that I like all the Comerica games. Like all of them, they have like a cool. They have a good vibe to them, even though they're weird and the sound chip's like very Euro. But yeah, those are all good. And all the Tengen ones, obviously, I'm keeping. But that wasn't part of my terrible afternoon because I knew Tengen games were all good. So those are staying no matter what.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not here to talk about Color Dreams because man, you want to do an episode about that? That would suck.
You think nobody listens now? Holy shit! Anyway, go on.
What else has been going on? Not much, man.
You beat Dracula X?
I did. I played the game because I had some downtime because of the COVID thing, and I actually don't have my own personal Super Nintendo at where I live in my apartment. I keep it at my lady's place on the other side of town because she likes Super Nintendo. So I'm like, yeah, let's keep it over there and all my games over there. So I have extra storage off site, and she likes to play it sometimes, so it's nice to have there. We can both play games together. But so I didn't have my Super Nintendo on me, so I had to go get the cartridge from there and bring it back to my own house, and then I had to like hook up this Super Nintendo that I just had in my cell pile, and all I had around my entire house, I realized, was a fucking RF unit. So I played through the entirety of Dracula X on a Super Nintendo with RF, which I don't think
as it was intended to be played.
Exactly.
Yeah,
as the developers intended.
Yeah, I don't think I've played any system ever on RF in like 2 decades. So it's just funny. I was like, well, this is what I'm stuck with, but I have to play through this before the podcast happens. So I guess I'm doing it. So with that being said, I was like playing the game kind of, I was like you were talking about certain levels being drab, and I was like, is this the fucking RF talking here, or is this like how this is made? I honestly was having those thoughts. I was like, is this like, I gotta go buy an AV cable because I'm gonna give this game like a poor review because it's like looking weird or something. But I think it was just how it was made, because I was like, because then like when I cycled to the title screen, like the blacks were black, and I was like, okay, that's how the blacks should look in this game. And then, but then this one level just had a lot of gray tone, and I was like, is that supposed to be fucking black? I don't understand what's going on here. And then
it's funny, like the TV right over my shoulder, the TV right over my shoulder here runs through RF. I split it off because I've got another TV off to the side that you can't see that has a little PVM, so I can see in case the game locks up. Or I just want to make sure it's working. Really,
I just thought you did it because so we could watch it too.
I wanted you to be able to see the intro to Dracula X 5,000 times. Yes, that's exactly why. But it's it actually looks pretty good. Like RF itself, like I'm always shocked at how good it actually looks comparatively. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, it's just this blurry mess. And then I go see it and I'm like, it's really not that bad. And to your point, it was not the RF that was causing the colors to be drab. It was absolutely the game in this case.
No, but that's just a funny coincidence because you guys are bringing up the the drab graphics and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that was a thought that I had playing it that I was going to bring up. I was like, I don't know if it was just my RF thing or what, but I guess it's confirmed by y'all that it was not that. It's just how the game looks. But I wasn't like upset by it. It was one of those things because like, I don't know. I haven't touched an RF unit in years, so
yeah,
that's the thought I had.
It's lies. You just did it this week.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so I played through the whole game. I think it's a fine Castlevania game. I'm going to be the guy going to bat for it here.
How odd.
Yeah, weird, because I played lots of video games, and I just think that this game fits in the Castlevania universe fine. The only reason people shit on it is because it's a fucking extremely hard act to follow if you're trying to follow Super Castlevania 4. That game's a masterpiece. Top 5 Super Nintendo game for me. The mood, as John was just talking about, the mood of Super Metroid and whatnot, the mood is like beyond immersive in that game. And it has like the mode 7, you get the fucking phenomenal soundtrack. You have the sound effects for creaking and cracking everywhere on certain levels, and it's I don't think you're in a haunted house at all times. We can all agree that that's a certified classic. It's a revered game. Dracula X, had that game not existed, no one would be shitting on Dracula X as much. That's how I feel about it. Like Dracula X is fine. It just has the clunkier controls because it went back to the NES style with the jump and whip thing. You can't do the whips in all the directions. That didn't bother me at all. I don't care at all because I just played through it as I normally would. And the final pixel jump to clear a gap to there, that doesn't bother me at all either. That just is a difficulty factor that you need to get over if you play platformers. I don't know.
If the Giants and 49ers didn't exist, then the Bills would have 4 Super Bowls.
Listen, I initially I thought to make an analogy to like Contra Force, but then I immediately was like, no, that game.
That's not even the same. No, that's not.
Because I was gonna make the analogy like, well, Super C and Contra didn't exist, and people love Contra. They wouldn't.
No, nobody would. No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. You're right. You're right not to use that analogy.
Yeah, I almost went for that, and I was like, that's not gonna make a good case.
No, that's not gonna resonate with the people.
That's something Gil would
close the deal. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Close the deal, Robbie. Close the deal. Anyway,
well, so my history of Dracula X literally is a week ago, because like I attained the cartridge like by happenstance like over last winter. From my local exchange store. I just beefed up some store credit, picked it up, fucking expensive game. I can't remember what the hell was tagged at. It's almost $300.
Oh, we'll get to that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Didn't matter because I just had a shitload store credit, and I'm just like guilt free. Burn that. Buy the game.
Burn.
But
get all those copies of Altered Beast out of here. I only need one.
Way, man. Oh man,
that is the Sega Master System version. Go ahead.
That for some reason that triggered something completely unrelated about Pit Fighter. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
I played Rondo of Blood on my girlfriend's Nintendo Wii like 10 years ago. It was in the Wii Virtual Shop, and I was like, oh, what's this fucking game? I never heard of it. And I was like, oh, it's the fucking PC Engine game that people talked about forever that no one owned or played because we were living in the West and no one I knew, like Clearvus was saying, no one had a PC Engine. I didn't know anybody.
No normal person had that stuff.
No one. I had a dude down the street who owned a Sega Master System, and I thought that was fucking insane.
He was a weirdo.
He was the weirdo because he had the fucking Sega Master System. Everybody else just had an NES, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo. And then me and my friend, next door neighbor Nick, were the weirdos who bought the 32X. And but that's about it. Like that's as far as it went. New kid who had a Saturn.
That's about as far as it goes.
That's as far as it goes. That was the end of my gaming, as we know it. No, but I played Rondo of Blood, and I kind of recall it. I mean, this was like 10 years ago when I played through it. It was pretty awesome from what I remember. This game felt nothing like that at all.
It doesn't. It doesn't. No. To me, it doesn't at all.
I was thinking if I played through it this past week, that I would like jog a memory because you don't touch a game for like 20 years. Sometimes you pick it up and you're like, oh, I remember all this shit. It's like riding a bike. But like I played Dracula X, I was like, huh, I recognize some tidbits. I remember there's one level that was annoying the shit out of me. I was like, hey, I remember being annoyed by this fucking level. And that's about it.
Valdor says the next episode will be Pit Fighter. So.
Oh, man.
Oh, God, don't do that to us.
Yeah. Well, I got to start. I might as well go into it. I just learned, I think today, literally, that, okay, most people know if you're deep into video games and if you like shmups, that Grindstormer on the Sega Genesis is notorious for a high failure rate as a cartridge. Usually what people do is they open that game up when it dies. Inevitably will die because it's a Tengen game, and Tengen had shitty boards. They manufactured really crappy PCBs that are all just dying mostly. That's a fun game. It's really rare. You want to preserve it. The go-to game to use as a donor cart for that is Pit Fighter. Now, Pit Fighter is also a Tengen game, just like Miss Pac-Man or Pac-Mania or RBI Baseball or all these other number of Tengen games that were released on the Sega Genesis. All those other Tengen games, those PCBs are trash, but for some reason, Sega manufactured the PCB for Pit Fighter, and like even though it has Tengen branding on it, it's still like Sega made, so that's like a good PCB. So
it's the best part of the game.
Yes. It is. So I'm like, well, fuck, that's like a $3 cart. So I'm going to start hoarding Pit Fighters in case I want like, any of my other Tengen games crap out. And this is just like, I don't know, a life hack for anyone who's listening who cares about this kind of stupid shit. But if you have a Tengen game that you like, that you want to keep alive and just do a ROM chip transfer, like Pit Fighter is the go-to donor cart.
Good to know.
Here we go. Now Pit Fighter's going to be the next little Samson.
So what would you say your score of Pit Fighter would be? The PCB that's made by Sega.
Pit Fighter is a 0.5.
Just the Sega PCB. What would you rate it at? A 5? Anyway.
Back to Dracula X. The music. You were saying it sounds all funky, like gooseneck bass lines and stuff like that, you know. It's all right. It kind of reminds me of like the Final Fight on the Sega CD. It has all these like funky bass lines and stuff like that. And it's like, I guess they were going for that CD Red Book audio thing, but like transferred to like cartridge, you know, like
as best as possible.
Yeah, I didn't have a giant problem with the music, but like I was saying earlier, it pales in comparison to the phenomenal soundtrack that is on Super Castlevania 4.
No, so, I agree. And that's just, I mean...
But that's about it. I mean, overall, it's still a good game to me. I don't hate on it too much. Like, I bought it because it was just on the old list of games to buy, and I'm obsessed with it and I needed to buy it. But like, would I recommend someone going to buy that, spend the $300 on it or whatever, who's like not a psycho collector who just wants to play fun games? Probably not. I'd say just get the other one that everybody knows and loves. It's like $20 or whatever the fuck it is now.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
And this goes to Jay and Mike as well. Let's say in theory this is a $300 game loose, and let's say in theory that Super Castlevania Complete is $300. Which would you buy?
That's a tough question, man.
I know,
because I'm not a box guy for Super Nintendo.
Yep.
So
I know
I don't care about that stuff, but I'd still probably do that because if I wanted box games, like I've always thought about, in the back of my mind, I'm like, if a box Super Metroid fell in my lap, I would keep it because there's like a few games where I'm like, yeah, the top 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
That falls into that top 5 for me. It's
curiosity. Yeah. I don't know, just something that popped in my head as we were talking.
This reminds me of how stupid I was because once a long time ago, my friend and I went to a yard sale together and we found a treasure trove, like a whole Rubbermaid bin of boxed NES, Super Nintendo, this and that. It was a wild find, and we like paid the guy a pretty good amount of money. He's like an old flea market seller who got out but had like a stash still. Wild coincidence. He had a Super Castlevania 4 in there that was like mint, and I was with my buddy, so we were divvying stuff up, and I grabbed the Super Castlevania 4 and I grabbed NES games I wanted, and I got home with it. I had all my stuff, and then my friend was like dying for that Super Castlevania 4, and I was like, dude, you can have it. Like, fuck boxes, don't care, all yours. you can. I'll just take the card out. You can take everything else. And like, I did that for him, and he still has it, and he appreciates it greatly. But I go over to his house, I'm always like, I wish I didn't fucking give that to you. He's like, yeah,
I need that back.
Like, yeah. He's like, yeah, but you did. And I'm like, I did, and it's yours. But like, It was a giant mistake because like, I found a mint copy of that completed box with the baggie.
It's not very common to find in good condition, I'll say that. But that's usually what happens with good games. That's what happens.
But at the yard sale, I was like, man, that would be cool because I found it organically and then just go buy it. And now it's like unattainable probably. Well, like you said, it's like 300, right?
It might be less than that. We'll talk about that maybe in a few weeks. John says that he would buy a Super Castlevania 4 all day. Not that we asked him. And then, Mike, you had something to say.
I mean, so the thing is, there are some people who, like even in the Collector's Quest Discord, they just, they don't give a shit about boxes, right? So they're happy with just having the cartridge. They don't care about the box. They don't care about the manual. I think for someone who is like that, I mean, you just get both, right? If you're talking about spending $300 on Dracula X, and then it's like whatever, $20, $30 for Castlevania 4, you get both, right? Because they're both different games, they're both good. I think that unless you really care about the box game, it's kind of a tough one. I'd actually probably recommend more Castlevania 4. Just because I think it appeals to more people, just in general.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, after you saying that, I'm like reassessing my answer. Like, I would just get the loose cartridge if I was forced to at gunpoint because of Dracula X. Because I'm kind of a completionist guy. Where like, well, if I like this universe of games, I want like every installment of it.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I'm like, I'll just get that, and that's fine with me. But I realize not everybody's like that. So if you had to choose for the better game, then go for the cheaper, better one. That's the obvious solution.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. If you were to score this game on a 0 to 5 in 0.5 increments, where would this land?
It's a 4.
It's a 4. That is exactly what Jay thought you would say.
Really?
Yep, it is.
I got you and John both right on the money.
Yeah, dude. You know me too well, even though
we're bonding.
I don't even guess.
Okay.
I don't even know why I had to say that. Anyway, all right.
I think that's it, man. I don't really have anything else to add except for I'll leave you with a little small closing anecdote. I said anecdote.
The antidote.
The antidote to this episode. I was talking to my lady that day, and we were trying to make plans for a week, and I was like, oh, she's like, oh yeah. I told her about how I have to do the podcast night. She's like, oh yeah, you gotta go be a bad guy on there, and I was like, what? A bad guy? She's like, yeah, like that game you like.
I knew what you said. I was gonna. Yeah, I didn't want to say.
Oh, you mean? Yeah, I was like, you mean fucking bad dudes? She's like, oh yeah, bad dudes. I was like, God, it's like a mom. It's like a mom moment. Like, yeah, go hang out with your bad guys there.
Go hang out with your friends and your bad guys.
Mom, it's called bad dudes, man.
It's bad dudes because they are bad. They rescue the president. They defeat ninjas. Yep, that's very nice. Anyway,
that I'll leave you on that note.
That's excellent. Well, I appreciate you talking and calling in, sir. Or I guess answering the phone when I called is probably the better way to put it.
Yeah.
So.
Are you a bad enough guy to call me for the next podcast episode?
Are you a bad enough buddy to?
I think he's a bad enough fella.
I'm not. I'm not your buddy guy. I'm not your bad enough guy, fella. All right. Well, very good.
All right. Okay.
With
Bye-bye.
that.
Bye, Robbie.
Yeah.
The one and only 8-Bit Supremacy Robbie Coleman, who has officially hung up. I'm checking my phone going forward because sometimes you want to make sure there are no bad dudes on the phone. I'm bad.
I was waiting for John to chime in again.
Yeah, it just pops up out of nowhere. Somehow he called my phone and answered it for me as well. All right. It's time for Mr. Chiaramonte. Mike, you
I'll
there?
try and keep it short because, God, we've been going for a while.
We have been going for quite a while.
That's the unfortunate part to being on our show. It's the show that does not.
I'm trying to rein all this in, and I'm going to tell you, it's so hard. And I'm going to have to cull some of it because it's like 2.5 hour episodes sound great, but when it's 11:30 and we still have 4 people to review this game,
no. I mean,
it's not. No offense. Take your time.
You're talking about a guy who would do 4-hour programming and assembly.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Yep. So, but no, take your time, please. Do not feel rushed at all. I want to hear what you have to say about it. So.
It's premise. Robbie is saying like a delay or something.
Your reverb is wild now. But yeah, John had said something about that too. Do you want to try to call back in?
Yeah, let me call back in.
All right.
One second.
While you're doing that, do you want me to jump ahead, or?
I think he's back here.
I'm back. Is it any better?
Oh, yeah,
Well, we have to ask.
quick.
We have to ask the audience. I never dropped from the call, so it might have something to do with it as well. It's better.
It is.
Yes.
It's better.
Okay, very good. All right.
That might have been
All right.
just from them calling in.
It could have also been that they're on the phone. Awesome. Sounds good. Very good. All right. All right. So, Mr. Chiaramonte, you chose this game. We're here because of you. Tell me what your thoughts are on this game. Give me your rating on this game.
So, all right. So, like I mentioned before we started the episode, when we were getting ready, I didn't even really know this game existed until I started collecting a little bit more in depth, and I was just like, how did I not know about this game? And I started playing it. I really liked it. For the podcast, I actually played through and I beat it. I also played through some of Rondo of Blood, because it's inevitable that you look up information about this game and everybody is constantly shitting on this game, talking about what a better game Rondo of Blood is. I mean, even when I posted that picture of the game in Collector's Quest, the Fleo immediately was like, oh, that's great if you want an inferior copy of Rondo of Blood. I was like, all right, I get it. So I think we've talked a lot about it back and forth, and really what it comes down to me is I think as a standalone game, if you're not comparing it to Rondo of Blood, I feel like Konami was basically like, hardly anybody played Rondo of Blood. We can't really port this. Doesn't make sense to port it over to the North American market because nobody has TurboGrafx. So what's our next best option for getting this game out there? And they were like, well, tons of people have Super Nintendo, so let's do something with this on Super Nintendo, and that's what they did. And obviously it was difficult because you don't have the ability to do the CD audio or the cutscenes or the voice acting, which the English voice acting in Rondo of Blood is horrifically bad. At least in whatever version I was playing.
Probably the PSP port.
Yeah.
Hey, they did a port of it. Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And I think that, like other than the first level, like we were talking about, I think there's a lot of level art and stuff that they pulled over from PC Engine that looks similar and is therefore similarly kind of basic, because some of the level design is different and better on the PC Engine, I think, but the graphics, because it's the TurboGrafx 16, are not as capable of what the Super Nintendo was able to do. Right. All of that to say, I think as a Super Nintendo game, Dracula X by itself is a good game. I don't think it's a great game. I think it's a good game. I think the controls are really frustrating. The knockback is as bad as it's ever been. There are a lot of just simply fuck you moments, I think, where the designers were like, well, this part of the game is too easy. Throw in bats or throw in Medusa heads.
I'll second that.
And then the final battle with Dracula is another kind of fuck you moment, because if you don't have the pit, if you don't have the
pedestals
platform, the different platforms to jump to, he's of blood. I feel like that's the case with that. He doesn't seem like he's that hard. Like you have to do basically the same thing. It's visually more impressive. Maybe it is harder. It doesn't seem like he's all that challenging necessarily. Other than just like knowing what the patterns that he has are and making it all the way to the end. On Dracula X, it's they were looking to make it harder. I think maybe as a result of it being relatively easy or comparatively easy on the PC Engine, they were like, okay, well, let's make this really hard. And it is. It's a giant pain in the ass, because you really, really have to get good at doing those jumps and figuring out what attacks make the most sense depending on where he shows up on those platforms.
Sure.
And then and then you got to do it twice, because he's
of course,
he's got his normal form, and then he's got his whatever weird giant
standard end of Castlevania game,
right?
Stuff.
Yeah. So I think all of that said, for me, I'd say solid 4. On a bad day, I think I might have said 3.5, but I think it's a 4. I think it's a really ambitious game at times. I really enjoy the music, even though it's not maybe as good. I gotta go back and listen to the soundtrack of Castlevania 4, because I really don't remember it as well as I ought to. But I really like the music. I really like the tone of the music. I remember listening to MIDI files of Castlevania music back in the 90s and being like, what freaking songs are these? I don't recognize any of these, or I don't recognize the instrumentation that they're using, that, sort of funky bass line instrumentation. And it's from Rondo of Blood and Dracula X, clearly.
Yeah. It's where it all began.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, and I think also there was probably a lot of, I don't know if it's true for this game necessarily, but I know for Symphony of the Night, there was a lot of negative criticism for that game, because it was a 2D game released on the PlayStation.
Oh yeah. I remember people being very upset. Like, what is this? And now, of course, people are like, that was the greatest thing ever made. You know what I mean?
Right. So I'm also wondering if it was in that weird period of time where people were just looking at the graphics that were there and being like, well, this is like, we've already seen this, we've done this. Why isn't this better? And I feel like that's maybe why they did the first level that way, like I said before, because it was like, it is super impressive, that first level.
Yes.
And then it really kind of falls off from there. It becomes more of just like an enhanced standard Castlevania. And that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. Yeah. All right. So we got you down for a 4. Very good. So I think I'm going to read off Sashimi Z's review, which was submitted in the 0 hour, in the 11th hour, because I didn't ask for it. You know how that is.
Oh, I'm sure he was super nice about that.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I see how it is now. I'm busy. Anyway, and then you can go, I'll go, and then we'll kind of burn through the rest of the stuff, which should not take very long at all. So, Sashimi Z had this to say. Hakumaju Dracula X Chino Rondo for the PC Engine is a phenomenal playing, fantastically produced game. Right from the start, you're hit with the unnecessarily thematic German opening voiceover, then Stage 2 hits you with the Vampire Killer remix, as it hits you with the feeling of busting through the original Dracula's castle again. Branching paths, different playing characters that act to mask different difficulty levels, even a save file to encourage you to go back and 100% find everything in the game. It's the ultimate mix of the best elements of the previous games, and yet another classic entry in the series at the height of the greatness of Castlevania, Konami, and 2D action games in general. Anyway, I never played the SNES game, but I heard on the internet forum and let me read this again. Sorry. Anyway, I never played the SNES version, but I heard on an internet forum in 2005, it's a butchered port or something. So 3.0.
I'm happy he really went to bat on this one.
Yeah. This game's great. I don't know much about the other one. Should have gone 3.5. Eldor would have agreed with that. So,
right?
Anyway.
Wow.
All right, Jay. On to you, buddy.
Mine will be quick, I think.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. It's 11:45. It'll be quick.
You're good.
Okay. So, there's a lot of points I agree with. So, Mike, you had a lot of really good points.
The good Mike, not me.
Yes.
Okay.
Even like Robbie and John going through the chat were agreeing with a lot of things, and even some of the things they said too. But there's hard parts to it. So if Super Castlevania didn't exist, would I think this game's better? Yes. But Super Castlevania exists.
Yeah.
So it's going to change my score. There's things I liked about it because playing it brought back a lot of the classic, the Castlevania and Castlevania 3, like Dracula's Curse. Like it brought a lot of that back.
Yeah.
Because that's the other hard part is it's hard because this is a predecessor to Super Castlevania.
Mm-hmm.
This should be a predecessor to the NES Castlevania collection.
Yeah, I could see that. It's almost like this, if this game, and we got Tiger Wolf Games is in the chat, so thanks for joining, bud. Good to see you again. Yeah, you're not late to the party. We're still going. Don't worry. I think we're going all night tonight. Right. I almost think if you, imagine a world where this game came out before Super Castlevania 4.
This game would be, that discussion wouldn't even, if this came out before Castlevania 4, none of this discussion would even be here.
I think it still would for me, but I'll get into that in my own. But I'm just saying, like, it's something that just dawned on me. I was like, if you reverse these and go, that's a natural progression of 3 to Dracula X.
Yeah, I think it's a very different discussion.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, okay. So Castlevania waifu game, hopefully soon is what we're hoping. I mean, I don't know, as long as they're not 17-year-olds like Annette or whatever it is. So anyway, but finish, please. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
There are things that, from a nostalgia point, I thought were great. So having the original weapons, I thought were cool, but they updated them, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier when we were talking about how nice it was having the whip, and you didn't have to build it up like you do on all the other ones. That was nice.
Yeah.
There are things.
The item crash is cool.
Yes,
like,
the item crash is really cool. The graphics are.
They are erratic.
Take it away from Rondo. I think the graphics are. I think the graphics are great, but there's points where they're frustrating. So, a big point of contention to me is in the first level alone. I get everything's supposed to be on fire, but it's very distracting. Like, just the fire in general is very distracting.
It's hard to concentrate with all that wavy orange in the background.
Yes, but then when you get into like Dracula's castle, and in the background you can see like the background of the castle. Like, you can see the brick walls, you can see the windows, and it looks great. But it just, again, it's Castlevania 4 or Super Castlevania is going to be one of the hangups for me. I hate to say it that way, but it is.
So,
what's that?
So
I didn't hate it, but I didn't uber love it. It's 3.5. 3.5. I think I gave it I wanted to take out Super Castlevania for it. I think if I put in Super Castlevania in the mix, I think I would have graded it lower.
That's fair. Okay. Tiger Wolf Games says we're more than likely to get a NFT-vania, or maybe a Pachinko-vania from Konami.
Oh, hey, that's a good one. Fun fact: Burning the Village was actually named.
The fact that it was burning. Okay. Fun fact: Burning Village was actually named after its founder, John Burning. The fact that it was on fire was just a coincidence.
Nice.
Tiger Wolf says I'd play Pachinkovania. Maybe I would.
Nice.
All right. I guess that leaves me.
Hey, you're up.
Man, I go back and forth on this one.
Let's see if I'm gonna bat 1,000 because I got everybody else right. I even got Mike C right.
If you would have asked me before this conversation, and even up until 5 minutes ago, I had a score in mind, and I bounce back and forth because there are some things about this game I just don't like. I think that it sucks that, like John said in the chat, or Mike, you said, even like just throwing in birds and Medusa heads to make things more difficult, which just seems like I think like even the pedestal thing with Dracula, it's like we don't want to put a lot of effort into this, but we don't want it to be super easy. So like, okay, just put them on fucking pedestals, or you know what, toss some fucking birds in there that don't fly at you or you can't see, or fly in this weird fucking direction that you can't really time out ever. You know what I mean? Like that to me is just like kind of lazy. I'm not a programmer, but to me, that's like, okay, we have to fill some gaps here. This game can't be a walkthrough. How do we do that? Toss some fucking Medusa heads at it is usually the answer, right? I don't like that. Couple that with the fact that, just like also what John was speaking about in chat, couple that with the invincibility frames that you do not get. You get hit, and then you almost immediately can get hit again. And that is bullshit. Okay, in this game where you get knocked back, and there are times when you absolutely cannot avoid getting hit. Mm-hmm. Unless you have absolutely the perfect weapon or everything goes exactly right. There are times where enemies like are sitting at the top or bottom of stairs or whatever it is, or skeletons throw bones at you or whatever it is. There are times when you absolutely can is unavoidable to be hit. And to not be able to have some refuge from that, even temporarily, where an enemy can just drain your power because they're on top of you and you can't get away from them, and they're hitting you every half second. Bang, 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 bang. That sucks. I hate that. So that bugged the shit out of me. I don't also like the fact that you never deviate from the slow plotting path. Now, that's the same in Castlevania 1 and 2, and I love those games, so it's not fair to say that. But in this game, it just feels like laborious. It looks like he's speed walking, but he's also speed walking in Rondo, so I can't really like ding it for that, right? Like it's that same like weird like he's doing this. Amy even said it when I was playing it, on vacation. She's like, "Why is he speed walking?" I'm like, "Yes, I know. I don't understand it." And then she said, "Why are you playing this game if you hate it so much?" Because she could tell. I was so frustrated, but it was because I was playing it on the Switch, and I will tell you what a vast difference it is to play it even on like EverDrive or something. Playing it on the Switch introduces so much lag into that game that it makes it almost impossible to advance. And even with like save states, which I never use, I was like, I'm gonna have to use them because I can't progress, But anyway, so all said and done, with all that being said, I do think that it is an okay game. When I compare it against other things, like I compare it against Castlevania, okay, like I get it. We just talked about this in the Zelda episode where I'm trying to be honest with myself and not be a hypocrite, because in the Zelda episode I said, well, they can't both be 5s because the first one's a 5, the other one has to be as good. No, they can be different and both be good. And they both can be excellent for different reasons. So I wouldn't say that this game is excellent. I think I'm in the same boat you guys are. I'm giving it a 3. So
hot damn, I got them all.
I was originally going to give it a 2.5, but I always go into this talk with an idea of what I think. And then I listen and I try to say, okay, maybe it's a little bit better than I thought. Maybe it's a little, like Altered Beast. I came out of that going, yeah, that game fucking sucks. I thought it sucked. And I listened to everybody else except Robbie. Okay. Cause Robbie loves everything and I love him, but I don't, maybe he's still here. I think you need to get good.
Yeah. He's telling you need to get good.
That's fine. Maybe I do. It doesn't have anything to do with that.
But I just want to mention, Robbie was calling out that those things we were complaining about, like with the Medusa heads and stuff, those are staple enemies in Castlevania, and I agree. I feel like the problem with it in Dracula X, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing, is that it just felt lazy. They were like, we don't know what else to do, so just put the Medusa heads here. Whereas in other games, it feels strategic.
It was a part of the game. Like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Or I've got to walk across this bridge and avoid them, but also like make it and jump and time my jumps. But I felt like every time that I was in a situation like that in this game, there were either birds or Medusa heads flying at me every time. Or when you're going up, right? You're trying to go up all those steps in level like 4 or 5 or whatever it is. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, just like, give me a break here. Like the birds in when you're, and what is it, level 3 or 4, I can't remember, where you have that the moving base and you have to go underneath, you have to kneel down underneath the spikes and you've got the guys popping out of the bottom of the water of you. And it's like they are unrelenting. It goes and it goes. You can beat it, and then you like there are times you have to literally like kill a bird and watch that pedestal come and go 2 or 3 times because the timing just isn't there. It's so, and I know there's no timer with this game, okay? So, yeah, Robbie says, don't play it on an emulator or a Switch. I didn't. I played it on a EverDrive. So I played it on a Super Nintendo, okay? I did just fine on the game. I just ran out of time. Sorry, I didn't have the whole week off sick with
when you were talking about the Switch.
No, I know. I'm just giving him grief. But I try to listen to what everybody else has to say, and then I formulate my score around it. And I already have a base idea. Like in this case, I thought I was going to score a 2.5, but there are some redeeming things. There are some things that I thought about comparatively to other versions of the game or early versions of the games or other things that I've even said and how I've compared games in the past. So I want to be fair to all that as well. So in this case, I felt like it deserved a slight bump because of it. So I'm giving it a 3.
One quick thing I want to chime in as far as the difficulty on the game that I did appreciate that I forgot to mention is, and Mike, you brought this up talking between Rondo and X when you fight Dracula because you're on the pedestals. Out of all the Draculas on the 4 predecessors of this, that is probably, and there's still, you get the rhythm down, it's not that bad, but he's probably the hardest. You look at like Castlevania 2, you just stand there and throw holy water on his ass. He doesn't do shit. He stands there until he's dead.
Can't hear because it's triple the cost, baby.
Right?
Holy water don't grow on rabbis.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't rabbis.
But that's, I mean, all the Draculas and all the Castlevania games before are fairly simple to beat. And also with the Grim Reaper. So the Grim Reaper on the clock tower, he's not impossible, but he's kind of a pain in the ass. The other ones, no, he's a big, slow, dumpy, looming Grim Reaper. It's like, wow, I got to fight the Grim Reaper. Let me move 2 inches and hit him 16
Well, we've
times.
all figured it out now, though.
Yeah.
All you got to do is jump online for 5 seconds and go, okay, that's how you beat that guy. Let me move on to the next one. It's not like it used to be where I was like, oh, God, what weapon do I have to have? Or where do I stand? Or what do I do? Nowadays, it's like I watch a speed run and go, that's how you beat that guy the fastest way.
It's still if you look at Dracula on X, it's still kind of, you get that, almost that anxiety. It's like when you were trying to get me through beating Shao Kahn and you're just like, Duck, back up. No, back up now. And it's like, oh my God, I can't. But that's kind of how you get, because you're like, do I stand especially the first couple times you play him, or the first time you play him, you're like, do I stay on this pedestal or do I move to this one?
Yeah.
Or where do I go?
You pick one and you stay there unless he shows up as the rule.
Yes.
That's how it works.
But when you
first play it, that's not how
you're like
terrified.
Do I just like chill here, or I don't think that works.
You get jumpy.
Yeah.
All right, Jay. So where can you play this game today, or some semblance of it today?
Nowhere. No.
Moving on to the collecting.
Right.
Go ahead.
You can play it on Super Nintendo or Super Famicom. You can play it from the 3DS eShop the Wii eShop.
If you've downloaded them already.
Yes.
Yeah. You used to be able to purchase them there 10 years ago or 8 years ago. Whatever.
Yeah. And then they have the Castlevania Advanced Collection, which is on Xbox One.
Advance.
Yes, the Advanced. I said Advanced. Advanced Collection, which is on Xbox One, PS4, Switch, and PC.
Yeah. And if you play it on the Switch, prepare yourself for a bad time.
Just don't play it on the Switch. It's trash.
It was not fun. You know who else you can play it with? My mom. Anyway. I think that's what you're looking for.
That's kind of where we're going with that one.
So anyway, I'm going to burn through the collecting, and Jay, same with speed running, and we'll wrap up here. So there are only 2 versions of this game. Okay, there is the Super Nintendo version, and there is the Super Famicom version. We talked about Akumaju Dracula XX, right? So a loose copy of this game for Super Nintendo, $340 roughly. That's just a loose game. Okay, CIB, I saw one go for just over $1,000 a few weeks ago. I've seen them go for as much as $1,500. Sealed, I haven't seen one sell. John had one. I told you at the show.
How much was the one that John had?
$1,700, but his was complete. He literally bought a copy of Bloodlines to pull the reg card to put in that because they are the same reg card between the two. There's no.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was too. So, but yes, they are the same reg card as far as he said, and I do believe him. He's a collector by heart and sells games for a living now. But yeah, so
if Mike needs another box copy, we know a guy.
No, one is too many.
It's a good looking copy though.
3 is not enough. No, Super Famicom. Loose, this is an $80 to $90 game. Have not run into it. I saw one lot that had this game in it, and the price got too high because it had it had Contra Spirits and a couple of other high-end, like Americanized high-end games, and I was like, I'm not paying that much. I'm not collecting it. Like, this is one I would keep if I got it, but I'd have to get it in a lot and not have to go buy it outright. Like, I bought Super Metroid for myself. This is not one I would go buy for myself. Yeah. But $80 to $90 loose, that's high for a Super Famicom game, okay? Again, good reason. And then CIB, it's about a $200 game from what I could tell, CIB. And then, and then sealed Super Famicom games, they don't kind of exist. They do, but they weren't really sealed to begin with. So, and then graded, I only found a couple instances. I didn't look at population reports for this one, but I will say that the last and only time this game sold graded was on Heritage Auctions in February of 2019 for $4,080. So it was a 9.6A. And the only other one that I can see that has been up for sale is an 8.5A plus that is on eBay for $11,000.
You should buy it.
From some stupid, the Atticus collection or whatever stupid, they try and put all this reverence around these video games. Like, this is the person who curated this collection and had them graded. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I'm sorry. Like, nobody cares, man. Okay? Like, anyway, I digress. I should buy the $11,000 8.5A plus. I was told on one of the graded game groups on Facebook that 8.5s are trash. That no idiot would want to spend their money on an 8.5. And I look around myself and I think, yep. as the market,
I have your idiot.
Yeah, as the market crashes left and right.
Might know a guy.
I got curious. WADA's population report shows that they've graded 9 of them.
Yeah, that's low. That's not a lot. And that's not surprising.
It's actually more than I thought it was going to be, though.
You know what's interesting? I was looking at Castlevania Chronicles for PlayStation because I have it sitting here. I'm like, how many of that is 22 of that, and 40 of Symphony. Which again, like population reports, it's such a weird thing because you'll go look at like Friday the 13th and there's so much dead stock that got graded, and it's like that game is like 9.8 A++ all over the place. And if you don't have that, you got like the bottom third of everything. And who cares? I don't give a shit about really any of the grade stuff. But ultimately, 9 is low, okay? But like, I'm also usually looking at NES numbers that are, I think, skewed most of the time. They're either very high or very low. So but 9 is not a lot.
By contrast, I looked up Ogre Battle 1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and sales numbers wise, that makes sense, right? Like Ogre Battle, I think the number that everybody agrees on, even though nobody can corroborate it, is 25,000 was sold because it sounds like it was a single print run and that was it.
Sure.
So that kind of makes sense, but it's a hard game to find.
How many of them were there? How many of the Ogre Battle were there in Pop Report?
1.
Okay, wow, I didn't hear you say that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, you can usually find both games on eBay circulating. It's just a matter of, do you want to pay the money that
agreed
somebody's asking for? And it's usually the answer should be no.
It should
unless
probably
you're like
be
hardcore, unless you're hardcore into collecting or you need this game for some reason, like buy the Super Famicom version or don't just emulate it or something.
Yep, I cannot agree with you more on that. So do not pay $340 loose for this game cash. If you trade in a bunch of junk for it, that's cool, like Robbie did. But I wouldn't pay that much money. If I walked into like Media Reload or Kyle's shop and they had this game, I would start thinking about the crap I have at home that I could trade to get it, as opposed to going, I've got to buy that for $340. So I agree with that. So
Are you still thinking about getting the copy from John down?
I'd have to trade stuff. Maybe I would get it if I could trade him enough stuff, but I don't really want to. They'd be cool to have just for like display and like pictures and stuff, but I don't think it's worth it. Like I would also clear out a bunch of junk, but we can talk about that another time. I don't know. Yeah. So speed running.
People have done it, and we're done. Moving on. So we got to wrap up. No, I'm joking.
How many runners were there of this?
48 runners did 303 runs.
That's average.
Yeah,
pretty good.
So the different endings we have. So we have on run types. So we have the bad ending, which is the catacomb shortcut, which is
where you save no girls.
Yeah, you're not saving anyone. That was Tiger Wolf Games. I mean SBD Wolf.
Tiger Wolf Games. Oh, I didn't know he. Oh no, he didn't do it. It was right here. It says SBD Wolf. Silent but Deadly Wolf. Is that what that is?
I'm assuming.
Anyway,
but he did it in 13 minutes and 26 seconds.
And that's as fast as this game has been beat.
Yes, and that's. Ultimately, that would be the shortest way to do it because you're doing the short.
Watched that run today, and the funny part was one of the infinitely superior wolf. That's correct. Tiger Wolf says the funny part about that run was there were definitely places where he could have done better. Like it was not one of those like this is as optimized as it's going to get.
Yeah.
I would bet you that you could probably shave another 8 to 10 seconds off easily. He could have in that run. I bet. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Go ahead.
So then for the good ending, which is saving one of them, would be...
It's Maria.
Yes. Which that one was done by Crunan, Crunan.
Mm-hmm.
That was 15 minutes and 17 seconds.
Yep.
Then the best ending, of course, is...
Where you save both.
Both of them.
Yep.
And that one was done by Crunan as well at 15 minutes and 58 seconds. It's weird that it took 41 seconds longer to save the one other person.
It's on the way.
Yeah.
You could skip it.
Yeah.
It's literally probably the time that it takes to go up, open the door, have her do the cutscene, then walk back out. That's all it is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's the same run, I'd imagine.
I guess I don't think about the cutscene because you got to sit there
she
and let
talks
her
to you.
say, thank you for saving me. And then you're like...
And then you're like, all right, peace, bitch.
Deuces. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did she go after that? I was always wondering. Like, you're like, okay, cool. You're still in the castle. The door's open. I guess you can get out. But good luck with all these fucking dickheads with the knives and swords. And
the Medusa heads.
Yeah.
In the cutscene in Rondo, he's like, "Oh, the castle's clear up to this point."
Yes.
So I guess that's the idea. Like he killed everybody already.
They didn't have the space in the memory in the RAM there.
Yeah.
The ROM. Okay, and then the last one, which I thought was interesting.
Whip only. So I'm assuming that's not using any special weapons or using the wow, I can't even think of it now.
Item crunch?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is?
Yeah.
I can't think either.
So that one was done by Crunan as well, and that one was 18 minutes and 35 seconds.
Do you think that Crunan, who holds all those three, looks at the catacomb shortcut like he looks down his nose at it like, I'm not doing that run.
He might have.
I'm not. I only do the good runs. I'm not going to use some shortcut where you might have accidentally fallen and moved into level 4 or whatever it is. Maybe.
So the ironic piece with watching these runs is how they do it backwards and do the slide jump because you move quicker.
Yeah. If you walk in this game, you can't walk in this game and speed run it. They should do a speed run where it's walking only. None of that weird backflip jump shit that you can do.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what that record would be.
That would be interesting.
So, wouldn't it though?
It would be.
All right.
So those were all taken from speedrun.com, of course.
So where does that bring us?
That brings us to finding out.
You know what?
If Mike
on,
C has anything
Hold on. Before we move on to that, 1 second.
Okay.
I just looked it up. Crunan holds second place on the catacomb shortcut. Bad ending.
So he has done it.
He's 27 seconds slower than SBD Wolf.
Get good.
I think he's pretty good at the other one. So,
well.
Anyway, you were saying?
I was just going to ask. I was going to ask Mike C. if he had any other feedback. He got to listen to us talk a lot. Poor guy, we invite him on and we did 90% of the talking.
Any other feedback on the speedrunning or collecting aspects of this game? I'm kidding.
Or just in general.
No, that's fine. I looked at the Rondo Blood speedrunning. It's about twice as long. 36 minutes is the current record, 100%. I think that was interesting.
Cutscenes are longer. The cutscenes are longer.
Yeah, I think everybody always says Rondo Blood is a much longer game. I didn't find that to be the case with the full playthroughs that I was looking at. I mean, there's some guy who's got an hour, like a 5-hour video of him playing that game, but it seemed like he didn't really know what he was doing because people who are
it was me average, apparently. No, go ahead.
People who are kind of average at it, it's like an hour for them to complete the full game. So neither game is that long.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think we've kind of talked it to death at this point, but it's an interesting game. It's kind of funny. We'll never see this kind of thing happen again, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree.
Technology being the way it is, so it's
the way games are
really
produced, and
yeah, too.
I agree. All right. Well, with that,
are we doing this?
I think it's time to wrap up. So, next episode is going to be our friend Kyle from Retro Replay. He wants to do an episode specifically about Godzilla. So I'm not sure if it's going to be about a specific Godzilla game or if it's going to be about all Godzilla games, which I think is what he wants, but we'll find out. Okay. And that's actually going to be Wednesday, August 24th.
Yep.
So 2 weeks from yesterday. Mark your calendars, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and what would that be? 4 p.m. Hawaiian? I don't know. I think that's right. I don't know. Isn't it 8 hours to Hawaii? Isn't the difference 8 hours? I think it is.
No, I think it's 6.
I can't remember. Who cares? It's way too
more
late.
than that. I thought it was 10. Actually.
I think it's 8, but I might be
we
wrong.
Have no idea on geography.
Yeah, we're on drugs here. Okay, so Jay, why don't you tell the people listening to us now where they can find us?
Well, got the best part of the show coming up. So we've got a link tree.
A what?
A link tree.
How does that work?
So it's a site you go to, and it accesses all of our social media sites.
Well, how do you get to it?
You'd go to linkter.ee /lost joystick.
Neat.
Linkter.
What's there? Linkters?
Linkters.
Eee.
And it's bedtime for Mike.
Oh, well past.
So, or if you just prefer to go directly to our social media sites. We have Instagram and Twitter, which is Lost Joystick, Facebook and Twitch, which is Lost Joystick Network, and then our email, of course, which is info@lostjoysticknetwork.com.
That is correct.
And then, Mike, would you like to plug your stuff just so we don't leave you out on that one?
Sure. So I'm not streaming episodes right now, but hopefully come September, I will be. You can find me pretty easily on YouTube by just searching NES programming and look for Michael Chiaramonte. That comes up usually within the first couple of results. Don't worry about that number one result guy. His videos suck.
They do.
No,
I watched some of them.
There are a lot of resources, but that's the easiest way to find it instead of learning how to spell my last name.
True.
Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at clearvus. I'm on Discord also. At clearvus. I'm on the Collector's Quest Discord because I'm giving them my money for some reason in their Patreon. And
because we're idiots. No, it's
yeah. No, it's good.
Shout out to Clearus. Clearus. Wait, no. VUS. No. I'm kidding. That was a joke.
VUS.
I was making the default Jen joke there. Jen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then I'm on Video Game Sage also for any of you who are on that. And yeah, I don't know.
I am.
Hit me up if you have questions about NES programming. I know I have the Patreon and my own Discord, but that's mostly because I had people who were felt weird about asking me questions for free and in me answering for free. So I was like, okay, fine. If you want to give me money, give me money.
Yep. Good for you. It's nice when you get to the point where they demand to pay you.
Yeah. So my $8 a month.
Well, I appreciate you being on, and thank you for coming on and spending some time with us and talking about Castlevania Dracula X. And hopefully you won't be a stranger. I know you're always around in the chat, and we all appreciate you supporting the show. So with that, I've bid us farewell and to say, go out there, have fun, be safe, and be excellent to each other. I've officially stopped the recording, and Johnny has showed up just in time for the default JEN reference. Johnny, thank you for joining us. Spoiler alert.
Apparently,
go ahead.
Apparently he's upset that I did a Castlevania episode.
Well, for those that are not informed, in about a month, Johnny will be on.
Yes.
So in 2 weeks, we have Kyle, and then 2 weeks after that, Johnny will be on. We'll be talking about Super Castlevania 4.
Very nice. Well, see, I said I saved you the good Castlevanias.
That's right. Thank you. You're so considerate. Mr.
Johnny was very funny on it when we were talking, because I had mentioned to him that you were going to be on, and you had already called dibs on X, and he was like, "All right, I'm out then. I don't want to."
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, that's some BS, he says. So, yeah. Valdor says he feels sorry for all the listeners that don't get to watch the sweet moves as I do the wave and robot into turning off the record. So, awesome. 5 out of 5 game episode equals done. Yeah, he did pitch Dracula X. It's true. Yeah, I think I could probably guess everybody's score for Super Castlevania 4.
It's going to be better than Dracula X.
It's a good one.
I know, and it's so hard, like you said, like to compare them is like, it's hard not to. And it was such a thing I'd never thought about till we were literally sitting here on the show talking about it. What if it came out before 4? What if Dracula X was the precursor to 4? I would have been like, oh, okay, this is a natural progression.
It would have been, from the functionality and everything, it absolutely would have been from the perfect transition from Dracula's Curse.
Because it does feel like they went back to NES style game. Except for the whole, and that invincibility thing pisses me off so much.
I think the grand scheme too with it was the whole, this game went back to the roots of what it was. And Mike, I think you may have mentioned it earlier too, it was that whole, we got a shiny new system, so we're going to make the whip go in different directions.
Just like Johnny said right there, 100% agree. When you take all that away in the next game, it feels like, especially at that time, I was like, this doesn't feel right. It feels backwards. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that you would remove functionality from a game as you progress to go, oh, that was too good or something. Like, but I get the like
but again, I feel like it's
but
back to that whole, like Mike was saying, it was Castlevania 4 was the shiny new quarter, so they were like, well, we got to do something. We have all this new technology now for the Super Nintendo.
My problem with that is that generally the early games on a platform are not the most robust you haven't learned how to most effectively program for the platform. So generally the later games see Little Samson or something like that, where it's like, okay, they figured it out. Like, look at an early Taito game on the NES that wasn't just a port of an arcade game, and look at a late one, right?
Yeah.
That's generally the progression you see.
Yeah, I think it's just a case of, like I was saying, they were like, we really wanted Rondo to sell better.
Yeah.
What do we do? What do we do with this? Because we got to do something.
We have to put it out. It only makes sense that we put it out, but we can't put it out like they put it out on the PC Engine. So what are we going to do? It's like I said, it is the Resident Evil 2 of like Nintendo 64, where it's like, we're going to put this game out, and it's like this technical marvel that it even got made, considering how and what went into, even just physically in assets into the Resident Evil 2, and you made a cartridge for it. But it's like, It is literally like, that's why I didn't have a Nintendo 64, because I'm like, why would I play this version of this game when I can play this version? Now, to your point, not a lot of people even knew or had the means to play the good version of that game. All they would do is say, oh, if I'm going to play that, I'd play the good one. But you're not going to play either. No. So why not play the one that's here? I get your point there too. So,
well, that's a good point. Thinking about Nintendo 64, is they took a giant step backwards with Castlevania, because that game was fucking trash.
Yeah.
So Johnny said
you didn't have a Nintendo 64 because you have taste, and also he said Castlevania waifu just works. The whip play on it is so much better. You can whip in any direction in the waifu version.
Oh, well, there you go.
You know. Anyway.
So Johnny said they Metroided you.
Yeah.
So is that a poke at Prime, because Prime's garbage? I hate the Prime games.
Yeah. Oh, stop that.
Oh, I hate them.
See, he's a little younger than us. Like, GameCube's probably right in his wheelhouse.
Super Metroid's probably my number one all-time game.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. Super Metroid is amazing. I that's probably my favorite Metroid game.
Dread's making a hard run at it right now for me.
Yeah, no, Dread was really good. I'm at the last boss, and I just don't have the time to get that guy. Yeah.
I'm in the same spot. I'm at the last boss. I still haven't beat him.
He's not a fan. I do not.
I don't like the Prime. I just don't like the Prime games.
No, they take your abilities, he said.
Yeah.
I just don't like. I didn't like the 3D interface.
No.
Although if I was having some sort of game draft, maybe I would draft that game so Johnny couldn't get it.
if they fixed the interface for Prime so that it worked like a modern game with the right stick aiming, that would fix the control problems.
Yes, because you're just like relying on hope.
Right.
Otherwise.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but I thought they did a really good job translating to 3D. That said, I still prefer 2D Metroid way more.
Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Johnny said,
brought up Fusion and Zero Mission, which I think are both great too.
Also, I wouldn't steal your game, Johnny. Although I do love Metroid. I'm a huge proponent. So,
only complaint I have about Dread is the
you
controls.
Can't beat it.
Well, I haven't. I need to sit down and do it.
How'd the amiibos? They hook you up?
Yeah, what did I get with those?
Some energy tanker crap. I don't know, just making stuff up.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well,
but I need to give them back to you. They're sitting in my house still.
Yeah. One thing I forgot I picked up was the last issue of Nintendo Power, by the way. If anybody's still looking, I got that from Holden as well, which I believe it says Future on it. Now, I don't know if there's a different print in Canada. This might be the Canadian last version of Nintendo Power. I don't know if they all said Future on them or not. I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff, so I'm going to look. But I just thought it'd be cool to grab because I have a number of Nintendo Powers, and I kind of stop as the 16-bit era kind of dies off. Is when I realized, like, he had a box of them. He's like, "Oh, these are mostly from the 64 era." I'm like, I don't want them. I don't want stuff I'm not interested in actually looking at. Like, I use a lot of this stuff for reference materials, and I can't imagine like there being much in those. Like you said, that Killer Instinct one would have probably been useful because it had the Castlevania Dracula X review. But in general, I'm like, I try to collect things that are relevant to what I want and not just everything. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. So,
Johnny said there's at least 2 U.S. copies.
Oh, of the last Nintendo Power. There's probably the subscription and the newsstand edition is my guess. So my guess is this is Future. So like Future Shops is. I
was just reading Tiger Games. Don't worry. Even us Canadians are experts on Canadian variants.
Well, he missed the fact that I have the Canadian variant Mario games, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which are very similar to the regular ones. But yeah, I'd never seen a Super Mario 3 with a red stripe across the top, which is the -1 Super Mario Bros. 3 on NES. But yeah, the Future Shops is Best Buy in Canada, or at least it used to be. Yeah, you know,
Best Buy sold those off a couple of years back.
Yeah. But it's you know, the red band version, yes. For adults only, says Veldor. You know it's Canadian if it has French. Not true. The late release NES games like Samson and Panic Restaurant on the back have this label, whichever one it is. It looks like this, and it has both English and French. So, yeah.
I think that's what he's saying, is it has French.
Well, Johnny, if you need a copy of this Super Mario Brothers 3 with the red line or red band, I can hook you up. I should have bought it. I was in Canada on Tuesday with a friend of mine, and he has like 3 of these in his bin. He thought these were just late release US like NTSC carts, but they are specific to Canada. It's a CAN-1, and actually the CAN variant even has a little bit of a difference on the end because it has TM, but it also has MC, which surely is the translation in French.
Club.
Yeah, the motorcycle club. But anyway, I'll send you some pictures. But I'm sure that I could get both of these. If you're good with loose cartridges, I know that he has both of these. I did not see any complete, at least with a red band. He had a complete. I think it might have been a US or Canadian version of the regular one, but the red band he had loose. So I can definitely hook you up with that. And who knows when I might be over the border again, or he would send it over to me. I don't know. So, but yeah, we'll talk about that more in depth soon. I think it's time for us to hit it. So,
giving up already, huh?
Yeah, I was going to
some sleep.
Say, gentlemen.
Oh, you there? We lost you.
Oh, no.
Good time for it. There
sorry.
you
are. Yeah. All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being on.
It was fun.
It was awesome having you on.
I'm glad you had a good time. Thank you for hanging out. I really do appreciate it.
It was great. It was like listening to the podcast, except you could hear what I was saying instead of just me saying it to nobody.
You're always like, yeah, that's right. And then you're like, oh, you heard me say that. Shit, I forgot it was live. That's funny. Very good. Awesome. Well, have a good evening. Thank you, everybody, for being in the chat. And we'll talk soon. Yeah, Johnny says the red band is hard to find complete. Right. I'm not surprised by that. So maybe it was a pack-in, who knows, whatever.
No.
All right.
Well, Mike, thank you again for being on. We appreciate it. Thanks for staying up so late with us.
We'll talk soon, sir. I've got your number in my phone now.
Yeah.
Everybody in the group, thanks for hanging out. Johnny, we'll be talking to you in a few weeks, 4 weeks.
Good game, guys. Thank you, Tiger Wolf. That's right.